don't like. Listen, Mark, I don't like Stanley. I think the only person I have been was Stanley.
And Nate, Stanley doesn't state the obvious, like what's the up. He spews talking points. Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
The nature of American culture, it's a white people problem. Okay. I literally said they need to understand
you gotta let these people bother you like that. If they want to beef with you, it's called Stanley versus the world.
And just assume their character by stereotype?
I think people do that every day.
Okay, I didn't ask you.
What do I think is okay?
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here, and I really do appreciate your time. Had to roll my window up. I'm sitting here and waiting for my son to come out. Excuse my rough appearance. But I don't, it is what it is. So I'm waiting for my son to come out. I'm picking him up from school, and I came across this post on Facebook where it was basically like a meme or infographic, and it was saying like Black women were saying to the mixed girls, oh, we have the Eve gene, we don't need to be mixed to look like you. And the mixed girls were saying to them, okay, well then why don't you look like us? And then the Black women said, oh, well, you're being racist and you're being colorist. And then the mixed girls, you could tell they're like, but we're just not. So I just wanted to react to this really quickly. I'm going to put the graphic up probably, but I wanted to, that's my iced coffee. I wanted to react to this. So first of all, the Eve gene. So basically what I will do to briefly explain the Eve gene. The Eve gene is a theory that suggests, or that proposes rather, that because all humans originate from Africa, similar to what you know about, the story of Adam and Eve, the original woman, the theory basically purports that all people, all races came from Africa, and there's genetic evidence to prove this. There is old fossils that are hundreds of thousands of years old that were found in Africa. As you know, it's theorized that our continents were not separate at one point. It was Pangea, one entire continent, and basically it was all the climate of Africa. Basically, different things happened, tectonic plates moved, yada yada yada. We end up with different continents, different people who separated. Caucasus Mountains, Negro, that whole thing, right? Google it. I don't want this video to be long, so I'm not going, go into that here. But basically, the theory says that because we all people come from Africa, that we are descendants of Africans, along the way, that we also carry this gene. Now, I don't know if you can say that either continental Africans as well as Black people who are from the diasporic Black people, or the diasporic Africans. I don't know if you can make the argument that we still carry this gene, because we obviously haven't rapidly produced white people in years. But the truth is that because of slavery, because of the diaspora, because of us being moved around, because of slavery, because of colonization, a lot of us, and specifically within the diaspora, we have a white grandparent. Some of us have several. I have several white grandparents, like fully white grandparents. So due to that, we have access to a set of recessive traits that we do genetically carry, even if we ourselves don't look like it. So that's why, for example, my husband has a direct, I'm not talking about great-great-grand, I'm talking about direct, his father's mother was Irish, like 100% white Irish. I have a grandparent on my mom's side. My mom's mom is biracial, and so her dad was white. He was Parisian, French. So that's really close for us, completely aside from all of the mixing that comes from slavery and all of that, and how I got here and all that stuff. Those are two direct grandparents. So if him and I have a child, and then our child turns out with red hair, green eyes, fair skin, and freckles, that comes from our recessive traits that we carry from our white grandparents. And so that is a real thing. That has nothing to do with the Eve gene, but that is, again, based off of the fact that Black people genetically, or just any race really, but specifically, I do think that is maybe particular to us, we carry the genes of our grandparents. So we can have recessive genes and traits that are triggered due to who our grandparents are. Again, that's not from the Eve gene. That's because we have white people that are biologically related to us. I was trying to figure out, which I wrote on this post on Facebook when I actually saw it in person. I interacted with it, of course, with a comment. And I said, again, what part of this discussion is about beauty and what part of this discussion is about phenotypical traits? Because those are separate, right? And I always highlight that on my channel because it is so important that people learn and train themselves to understand the difference, right? Just because you are biracial or you are mixed or you are a Black person that has similar traits as a biracial or mixed person. So light skin, light eyes, loose texture hair, that does not determine attractiveness. That only leaves you with these traits, right? You can be an attractive, an exceptionally beautiful person and look this way, and you can be a not so attractive person and look this way, right? So a lot of times I think people conflate these two aspects in this discussion, ongoing discussion, because people don't know how to separate beauty from talking about traits. Because Black people don't need to be mixed to be beautiful, right? Black women don't need a white grandparent to access beauty. We don't need a white grandparent to access healthy long hair. We don't need these things to be attractive, right? Just like being biracial and actually having two like direct parents of different races does not automatically make you attractive. It just makes you mixed. And a lot of times, because people, like I say on my channel, assume that mixed means better, mixed means more attractive, they start automatically handing out trophies and I don't know, honorary privileges based off of someone's mixed identity or mixed genetics. And that's why I really wish people spent more time differentiating what they're talking about, or even if they don't differentiate and they just want to be honest and say, yes, I believe, I have bought into the brainwashing, I believe in it, I accept it, I agree, I think being biracial and being mixed makes me better than other people. And if you're really attractive, like if you came out with a fly ass mix and you are gorgeous, I don't necessarily see the issue with that. Like to me that makes sense, right? One of, I think, is the prettiest mixes that I've seen in terms of biracial people are Blasians. Black people mixed with some whatever Asian or whatever Black and whatever Asian, they tend to, our features tend to mix extremely well. Now, it has to do with my opinion. I personally do not have white people on a pedestal. I don't idolize their hair, their skin, their features. Nothing about whiteness is beautiful to me, beyond like objectively speaking. Like if I see a beautiful white woman, I can say, oh, she's a beautiful white woman. But whiteness itself does not have value to me. Whiteness itself is not something I think is inherently better, right? That's what I mean. Whereas a lot of people of color are taught that whiteness automatically equates to beauty and intelligence and better value and I don't have that complex. So that's not something I think, that's not something I feel. So I think a lot of times people get them mixed up. People don't understand that traits don't.
I'm going to stop this here because I fear she's just going to keep repeating herself. This is what happens when people don't read books. No idea what her point is, other than Black women can be beautiful and they don't have to be mixed. Ooh, boy. Well, welcome to Stanley versus the World. Everybody, please make sure you hit the like button. If you wander in and you are new, try out the show. Stay if you like it, leave if you don't. And recommend it if you do like it. So I'm sorry. I was tired and I overslept. And it was a late night last night, but I had a good time. So I am back. Excuse me. And I got not so many news articles. And around 7:00, it's going to be the second debate between Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo, and we might have to suffer through that because I'm kind of interested in the second go round. Let's see what Cuomo learned, which probably won't be much, but it's for the political folks who are part of this channel. You got to at least watch a little bit of it. So this particular video, I thought it was going to be better, but not everything I select to watch will always be good. So, government shutdown. Let's see, day 22. It will almost be a record pretty soon. This is interesting. Trump is creating two classes of federal workers, paid and unpaid. It's a long article, but I want to listen to at least a little bit of it.
Looking to buy or lease a car and not sure where to start? Meet FlexCar, the first and only month-to-month car.
Unpaid, a news story written by Hannah Nathanson, Lori Aratani, and Jacob Bogage, and read by
I might have to get rid of the New York or
the Trump
Washington
administration
Post.
is creating a two-tier system within the shuttered federal government, paying some staffers required to be on the job, even as it leaves many of their colleagues working without salaries. Those still drawing pay include active duty
TSA is walking out, by the way,
officers and air marshals, as well as 70,000 law enforcement agents spread across the Justice Department and Department of Homeland Security. Where and how the administration is finding money for those salaries, and whether the maneuver is legal, remains unclear, experts said. Employees in roles seen as flashier or gunslingers.
Yeah, I noticed. He said he's not going to drop out, though.
Customs enforcement deportation
Black
officers
Knight.
are
Silva.
seeing no hit to their bank accounts even as the shutdown drags into a fourth week. But within the same agencies, their colleagues are coming to the office each day without pay until the standoff ends. That includes the behind-the-scenes staff who arrange agents' travel, maintain their vehicles, and process their paychecks, several ICE employees said in interviews. With no indication that the shutdown is likely to end anytime soon, resentment is rising. We are called support staff, but I'd argue that we drive them, said one ICE staffer, who is working but not being paid and who spoke on the condition of anonymity for fear of retribution. Just because they have a gun, badge, and authority doesn't make them more important than us. It shows that the administration only cares about the gun holders. White House spokeswoman Abigail Jackson said anyone who's frustrated by the pay discrepancy should blame Democrats for not voting to end the shutdown. The Trump administration wants every federal worker to be paid. That's why we have repeatedly urged the Democrats to reopen the government and stop hurting the American people, she said in a statement. The Trump administration is working day and night to mitigate the pain Democrats are causing, including by paying the troops and funding food assistance for women and children. The government has been shut down since October 1st, as the two political parties battle over healthcare policy. Democrats insist that President Donald Trump and the GOP must preserve health insurance subsidies as part of any agreement to fund the government, but Republicans, who control both chambers of Congress, say they won't negotiate over health care until the government reopens. With Congress deadlocked and more than 750,000 federal workers placed on unpaid furlough, the administration has acted to preserve government services and pay staffers it prioritizes. Trump officials diverted leftover Pentagon research funding to cover payroll for active duty troops and directed money from the One Big Beautiful Bill, Trump's massive tax and immigration package, enacted in July, to members of the Coast Guard, reallocating $10 billion meant to support DHS's mission to safeguard the borders of the United States, according to the text of the statute. Other sources of funding are less clear. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi L. Noem wrote on social media last week that the Secret Service, air marshals, and law enforcement officers working for U.S. Customs and Border Protection and ICE would soon receive a super check. Slated to arrive Wednesday, the payment will include 4 days lost, their overtime, and their next pay period, she wrote, without specifying the funding source.
So you can do back pay. So let us continue, and there will be a commentary. Dude, we have passed the threshold. We are now in a changed America that is authoritarian. It's still reversible, but we're here. This story is an example.
Think it's the wrong time to buy a new Chevy truck?
Commercials.
Don't miss Last Call.
My Lord.
You're listening to Pentagon announces a new right-wing press corps after mass walkout, a news story written by Scott Nover and Drew Harwell, and read by an AI-generated voice. Nearly 1 week since a rash of Pentagon journalists turned in their press credentials after refusing to sign a new restrictive press policy, the Defense Department announced a new media press corps, largely hailing from right-wing outlets. The 60 people from various news organizations represent a broad spectrum of new media outlets and independent journalists, Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell wrote in a statement on X, adding that all of the publications agreed to the agency's press policy. According to a draft of the announcement obtained by the Washington Post ahead of Parnell's tweet, the coalition of signatories includes streaming service Lindell TV, started by MyPillow CEO and Trump ally Mike Lindell, the websites The Gateway Pundit, The Post Millennial, Human Events, and The National Pulse. It also includes Turning Point USA's media brand Frontlines, as well as influencer Tim Pool's Timcast, and a Substack-based newsletter called Washington Reporter. The memo said that many independent journalists also signed, but did not specify who they were. Timcast, The National Pulse, and The Washington Reporter all confirmed to the Post that they had signed the policy. The Post Millennial, Human Events, TPUSA Frontlines, Lindell TV, and The Gateway Pundit all confirmed on X, as did Just the News. The Defense Department's policy blocks journalists from soliciting information the department has not authorized for release, even unclassified details, a major shift in press outreach from the organization. Parnell said that 26 people from 18 outlets signed the original document, including OAN, The Federalist, and The Epoch Times. New media outlets and independent journalists have created the formula to circumvent the lies of the mainstream media and get real news directly to the American people, Parnell wrote on X. Their reach and impact collectively are far more effective and balanced than the self-righteous media who chose to self-deport from the Pentagon. The Defense Department declined to offer additional comment or give the full list of signatories. The Post previously reported that only 15 people had signed the media policy as of October 16th, the day after the walkout. That list included OAN, The Federalist, and The Epoch Times, as well as a smattering of foreign outlets, freelancers, and little-known independent journalists. It also included the Australia-based newspaper The Australian, owned by Rupert Murdoch's News Corp, which later reversed course following the Post's report. The conditions of the media policy, a spokesperson wrote, raise serious concerns and place undue limits on press freedoms. Out of the signing outlets, only OAN regularly reported from the Pentagon. After thorough review of the revised press policy by our attorney, OAN staff has signed the document, OAN President Charles Herring wrote in a statement. The introduction of a new media press corps follows a similar move earlier this year by the White House, which has held special briefings for influencers, upstart news outfits, and other non-traditional media. It has also had a new media seat in the briefing room, sometimes occupied by newer yet more mainstream outlets like Semaphore and Notice. Trump administration officials have defended their new media shift by suggesting they want to reach a broader and more diverse American audience, but many of the newest press corps entrants are small partisan outlets with low online engagement. Virtually all of the new entrants do not rank among the top 20 right-wing websites in the U.S., according to estimates from the online data firm SimilarWeb cited by the political content tracker The Writing. Red State had fewer than 10 million visits in August to its website, the estimates said. The New York Times, by comparison, had nearly 600 million. The Defense Department has made previous attempts to boost less traditional media outlets, in February removing the New York Times and NPR from their dedicated office spaces in February in favor of the New York Post, Breitbart News, OAN, and a left-wing outlet, HuffPost. The resident Pentagon press corps, as it's known, are the journalists, reporters, producers, photographers, videographers, who cover the Pentagon on a day-to-day basis. Of the Pentagon's new press corps, only OAN was a regular presence before last week's walkout. But there's little unity in conservative media over this policy. Fox News Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's former employer joined ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN in announcing it would not agree to the media policy. Today we join virtually every other news organization in declining to agree to the Pentagon's new requirements, the joint statement read. The policy is without precedent and threatens core journalistic protections. Other conservative outlets, Newsmax, The Washington Times, and The Washington Examiner, all of which have reporters who regularly cover the Pentagon from the building, also declined to sign, as did the Daily Caller. The outlets that have stepped in to take the old guard's place are relatively scrappy and less well known, and some have trafficked in conspiracy theories. Tim Pool, CEO of Timcast, wrote in a statement that his plan is to have the outlet's White House correspondent attend any press briefings the Pentagon may hold. Our access is mostly for general inquiries and interviews, Pool wrote. Should a story, for some reason, end up in our laps that may put us at odds with the Pentagon's press policy, we will always prioritize the public's right to know and transparency. However, given that we are not investigative reporters, we don't expect to find ourselves in these circumstances.
Yeah, don't investigate, just report. Yep. Step 2, control the media and their access. Ooh, boy. So, next, Trump administration live updates. Strike on alleged drug boat. It's in the Pacific now, folks. This is, and better yet, this is interesting. Let's see how long Mr. Trump can not do a war.
Looking to buy or lease a car?
News story written by Karen DeYoung, Warren Strobel,
We're gonna
Susanna
have to get
George,
rid
and
of the
Ana
Washington
Herrero,
Post,
and read
folks.
by an AI-generated voice. By his own count, President Donald Trump has settled 8 wars from the Gaza Strip to Southeast Asia during his 9 months in office. But in a place much closer to home, he now seems determined to start one. With dozens of warships and planes and thousands of U.S. troops newly deployed to the Caribbean Sea, Trump has declared an armed conflict with drug trafficking groups he has designated international terrorists. U.S. air attacks have blown up at least 7 boats that Trump has charged were carrying drugs to the United States in international waters from Venezuela, in the process killing dozens of alleged traffickers. He has also signed a finding or authorization document for CIA covert operations in Venezuela and charged its president, Nicolas Maduro, with being illegitimately elected and heading a narcotics cartel. I authorized it for 2 reasons, Trump said last week. Venezuela, he said, was the worst abuser of open border policies under the Biden administration, emptying its prisons, mental institutions, insane asylums of migrants to the United States. The other thing is drugs. We have a lot of drugs coming in from Venezuela. Asked if he had authorized the CIA to take out Maduro, Trump said it would be a ridiculous question for me to answer, but I think Venezuela is feeling the heat. White House spokeswoman Anna Kelly referred to Trump's public statements in response to a request for clarification of his policy in the region. She added in an email that, "These decisive strikes have been against designated narco-terrorists bringing deadly poison to our shores, and the president will continue to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice." Trump has made clear his intentions to go beyond blowing up boats, saying, "We're going to stop them by land in Venezuela." Several people familiar with internal administration deliberations said any initial land attack would probably be a targeted operation on alleged trafficker encampments or clandestine airstrips rather than a direct attempt to unseat Maduro. Some said the U.S. deployments and boat strikes were psychological warfare to promote fractures in the Venezuelan armed forces or persuade Maduro to step down. But Trump has said nothing to dispel concerns that the United States could launch a full-scale military operation. Having declared war against narco-terrorists and designated Maduro as the head of at least one of them, there really is no turning back unless Maduro is essentially not in power, said one person among those interviewed for this article who, like others, spoke on the condition of anonymity about the sensitive issue. At the end of the day, if you have authority to take out cartel runners at sea, you can take out the cartel boss, the person said. The vast majority of illicit drugs entering the United States, and virtually all of the fentanyl, do not come from or through the Caribbean, but from along the Pacific coast or by land from Mexico, according to U.S. government and UN experts.
We'll stop it there. And speaking of war, so a federal judge with Supreme Court, with Supreme Court ruling still pending, judge says she'll agree to extend block on guard in Chicago. That's the war within our borders and the enemy within. The federal judge agreed to extend a block on deploying the National Guard to Chicago for 30 days. The Trump administration is asking U.S. Supreme Court to intervene and allow guard deployment. Legal battles are ongoing. So we go there. It's a war, folks. And MAGA has declared it internally and on Venezuela, apparently.
Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has gone public with her insults to a senior White House correspondent for the Huffington Post. Her online post has so far been viewed some 16 million times on X. Let's walk through how the confrontation began. SV Date from the HuffPost asked her who suggested Budapest as the site of the potential next meeting between President Trump and President Putin of Russia. Budapest, Date points out, is where Russia promised it would not invade Ukraine back in the early 90s. Leavitt's reply, quote, "Your mom did." Date then asks, "Is this funny to you?" Leavitt then hurls insults, calling Date a far-left hack and directing him to stop texting, quote, "disingenuous, biased, expletive questions." SV Date, a senior White House correspondent for the HuffPost, joins us now live. SV, thanks so much for being with us. I'm curious to get an understanding of what it was that you were trying to determine based on the question of who decided Budapest. What was your intent with that question?
Well, to me, the choice of Budapest, as I laid out in the question itself, was interesting because I'm sure President Zelensky of Ukraine is not terribly fond of that idea because of what happened there in the early 90s. I think it was in 94, where they agreed to turn over the nuclear weapons that they had, like 1,200 or something like that. And in return, the promise was that, okay, Russia will leave us alone. And that the United States, Great Britain, and Russia agreed to those terms. So that happened in Budapest. And so the idea of going back there, it seemed a little odd. And I just wanted to know, well, did the president consider that? Did he think about that? Was he aware of that? And if so, then why do it anyway? And I'm still genuinely curious. And if they want to, fill me in on why Budapest, I'd love to hear it.
It seems like a fair question, and we should let our viewers know that it's uncertain whether that meeting is actually going to happen now. Even the preliminary meetings between Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov now appear to be postponed. She characterized you in her response, one of her responses, as bombarding her phone. I wonder if you'd had communications with her previously in which there was a dialogue, if this was an aberration, in other words, the kind of response that you got here. Well,
the kind of response that I got is an aberration, because normally she just ignores all my questions, as does the press office, by the way. And these are the type of questions that, I'm emailing them or texting them or trying to go in and talk to them pretty much several times a week, because that's every time I write a story about the White House, that's our job, is to ask. And by the way, I'll remind you, she is the press secretary for the White House, so this would be a person I would want to ask. And so am I bombarding her? No, I don't harass her and insult her and whatnot. Every time I have a question that I send to the White House press staff, I also send it to her in case one of them chooses to respond.
I wonder what you make of the accusation that you are a, quote, left-wing hack who routinely attacks the president. You did write a book a few years ago called The Useful Idiot about President Trump. What do you say to those comments?
Well, I'll say this. When I started covering Donald Trump in 2015, I did not know him at all. In New York, real estate is not a thing that I ever covered. But everything that I've learned about him, and having covered his campaign and his presidency, the views I have about Donald Trump now are those that have come from my reporting and from my watching him and from my experience. And if I don't convey my conclusions about Donald Trump to my audience, then I'm failing them. I mean, people who are watching CNN or reading HuffPost or the New York Times for that matter, they shouldn't be expected to just get stenography and then go back and do all the historical research on what this man has said and done in the past before. I mean, I routinely say that the president lies. He does. He does. What can I do? I mean, that's who he is. And so I don't apologize for that at all. In fact, The Useful Idiot, the title, of course, is from an old Russian phrase about people who, do things because they're being used by others. And that's, honestly, it's what it seemed in the first term. That's what was going on with President Trump.
I wonder whether you think her publishing this exchange has either galvanized the base or potentially backfired, because it seems like politics nowadays, in a lot of ways, are a Rorschach test, right? What you interpret, you're seeing, says a lot about you, because some people see that and they think, oh, she's standing up to this reporter that misrepresents things or whatnot. Some people see it and think, boy, that's childish. A press secretary at the White House should not be responding that way, insulting someone's mother.
Right. Well, as far as the folks who thinks Donald Trump can do no wrong and never has.
Yo mama jokes.
That's not my audience. That's not your audience, probably. And there's nothing I can do about that. All I can do is do my reporting. And part of that is asking them for their view of it, for their explanation of it, for some sort of background as to why this happened, etc. Did it help her base? Probably. I mean, as you saw on Twitter, she got a bunch of retweets and people were calling me names, etc., etc. And that happens now. I mean, that's the world we live in.
It is the world we live in.
That is the world we live in. So move ahead. Mr. Trump spoke with Putin last week, after which he announced he would meet the Russian president in Budapest, Hungary, to discuss a possible end to Russia's war in Ukraine. Let's put it to you this way. Trump is not the he is a tin-pot dictator. Xi Jinping Xi thinks Trump is second rate. So does Putin. That is going to be that difficult ninth war that Trump's not going to be able to stop. So now he's turned back to bullying Zelensky because Putin is just like, fuck you. I'm going to do what I want. That is our President Trump. The war is within, really? So this hurts my feelings here. White House expands East Wing demolition as critics decry Trump overreach. That motherfucker overreached months ago. So now he's destroying the people's house.
You're listening to White House expands East Wing demolition as critics decry Trump overreach. Washington Post, and two people who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe the scene. Photos of construction teams knocking down parts of the East Wing, first revealed by the Washington Post on Monday, shocked preservationists, raised questions about White House overreach and lack of transparency, and sparked complaints from Democrats that President Donald Trump was damaging the people's house to pursue a personal priority. They're wrecking it, said Martha Joint Kumar, a political scientist and professor emeritus at Towson University in Maryland. And these are changes that can't be undone. They're destroying that history forever. A White House spokesman said that the entirety of the East Wing would eventually be modernized and rebuilt. The National Trust for Historic Preservation, a nonprofit created by Congress to help preserve historic buildings, sent a...
What was the name of that movie? It's where the White House gets bombed. It literally looks like a movie scene. There was a movie with that God damn it, I cannot remember the name of the movie. This is your White House, folks, and it was bombed by the president.
Letter Tuesday to administration officials warning that the planned 90,000 square foot ballroom will overwhelm the White House itself, which is about 55,000 square feet. We respectfully urge the administration and the National Park Service to pause demolition until plans for the proposed ballroom go through the legally required public review processes. Carol Quillen, National Trust CEO, said in a statement. Citing two federal commissions that have traditionally reviewed White House additions. White House officials dismissed the criticism as manufactured outrage, arguing that past presidents had pursued their own changes to the executive campus as necessary. They said that the privately funded ballroom will be a bold, necessary addition to the presidential grounds. For more than a century, U.S. presidents have been renovating, expanding, and modernizing the White House to meet the needs of the present day. The White House's rapid response team posted on social media, listing examples of prior campus construction. Trump has long touted his plans for an expansive ballroom, insisting that presidents needed the space to host large events. He also said in July that the construction of the planned addition would not affect the existing White House. It won't interfere with the current building. It won't be. It'll be near it but not touching it, and pays total respect to the existing building, which I'm the biggest fan of, Trump said during an executive order.
Trump doesn't give a shit. He never did. So this is where we are, folks. A lot of people voted for this motherfucker. So, Historic Preservation Group asks Trump admin to pause White House East Wing demolition. And boy, are they wasting their time. I hope they took pictures of the old White House, because that shit's gonna change. The National Trust for Historic Preservation, a nonprofit chartered by Congress to further the historic preservation policy in the U.S., has written a letter. I bet Trump hasn't read that letter, urging Trump administration to pause the demolition of the East Wing of the White House until a review of President Trump's ballroom plans is completed. Not gonna happen. That motherfucker, the people's house, is just a thing to these types of folks. So let's see, where do we go? So let's watch this.
Donald Trump won on one word, the groceries. Economic anxiety catapulted Donald Trump back to the White House because, as our next guest says, the money matters. The new polling out today shows that Donald Trump has done little to address the very thing that won him the presidency a second time. According to AP NORC polling, 54% of Americans say that grocery costs are a major source of stress. That stress that voters are feeling does not appear to be Donald Trump's priority, as we just discussed. And Senator Elizabeth Warren points out, quote, "Oh, you're trying to say the cost of living is skyrocketing? Donald Trump can't hear you over the sound of bulldozers demolishing a wing of the White House to build a new grand ballroom." Joining me at the table, actor, musician, Michigander, my friend Jeff Daniels. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
How's it feel out there? I feel like that's always my question on and off TV.
I think the No Kings protest, aside from the 8 million plus people that actually did, brought attention to what's going on. To the people who have checked out, who just can't deal with it. It's too much every day. I talk about when we did Newsroom, the Aaron Sorkin show, if we were to be still doing that now, we couldn't keep up. And, you know, even today, there's this, that, the other thing that the White House and this administration is doing, and people just go, ah. But I think that those who voted for him because they didn't want Kamala Harris or don't like Democrats, never voted for Democrats ever, are paying attention if things cost more. And that was one of the things he promised, like any president promised, you know, I'm going to lower prices. Well, if he does, great. He's a hero come the midterms. But if he doesn't, they're going to notice that. And it's not the people on the right who are going to stay with him, but it's the people who went with him because he promised that he'd make their lives better. And if they aren't better, he'll be, and the Congress and the Republicans in Congress will be like any other political party that didn't deliver.
It's interesting. We've talked a lot about decency and the lack of decency coming from the guy in the Oval Office. And I think what has been explained over the last 9 years is that a lot of voters were willing to sacrifice decency and norms and traditions because they felt a little bit better about their economy. Either they thought his wealth was contagious, or they just thought because he was so wealthy, or they perceived him to be wealthy and successful, that he could scale that. When that goes away, I mean, there's a story in the New York Times today about records number of people defaulting on their car loans. Most people need their car to go to work. There's a housing crisis in this country. Groceries are more expensive, not less expensive. And you see windows into even Donald Trump talking about the price of beef. I mean, that is real. That is undeniable. And that is getting worse. Do you think decency remains a luxury for people? Or do you think decency comes into focus when they realize that he hasn't made their economies better?
I would like to think that things like decency and civility and respect for the rule of law and respect for things that are bigger than you, including the office of the presidency, which is different than a monarchy, will matter. First, it will be about the economy. It always is. Carville was right. It just is. And that's okay. But I think then people will start to go, well, maybe it wasn't worth it. And by the way, do we really have to treat people like that? You know, the meme that he had where he was flying with the crown and the, you know, spewing or excrement all over the people down below.
The country, America.
Yeah, he tried it. Would Lincoln have done that?
I don't think Nixon would have done that.
Nixon wouldn't have done it. You know, Reagan wouldn't have done it. Bush wouldn't have done it. Either Bush. You know, it just, you know, I think people in the Midwest, where I am, still have this, we value our decency and our civility and you know, we don't get taken with whatever goes on the coast. You know, we got a chip on our shoulder about that. And I think it matters. It may not matter right away when you're voting, but down the road, if he doesn't deliver on the economy like he promised he would, then that stuff will start to add up and they'll get tired of it and they'll vote for change, which is what they always do. You know, change is always, we're always changing. I was thinking about, you know, when I was growing up and I started listening to Led Zeppelin and my dad was going, what the hell is that? You know, I mean, it changes, every generation changes things. And we're in a place now where they want to change it back to whatever that was. And I don't think people are as afraid of change. And we'll find out at midterms, but I don't think they're afraid of change. I think they wanted things to get solved, you know, economically, but I think when it comes to decency and civility and respect for the rule of law, which governs all of us, whether we're left or right, will matter again.
You played Jim Comey, and Jim Comey, I think, is the first political prosecution. Donald Trump had him indicted via social media post. Pam, hurry up and do it. I think they went through 2, 3, 4 people from an office that fled because the facts weren't there, but they found somebody. They found their gal, and Lindsay Halligan. Those facts are known, but I wonder if there was anything about Comey's response. He issues a video that says, "I'm not afraid, and let's have a trial." It seemed like it seemed like a line that you could deliver as Comey. It seemed like a very Comey response. I wonder if you have as much confidence as he does that the rule of law will keep him safe from political prosecution.
You know, I got to play him in the Comey role, and one of the things I learned about him was his the sacredness of the rule of law. And one person I talked to described him as a Boy Scout when it came to that kind of thing. And you can argue that he handled the Hillary announcement in the summer wrong, but come that fall and the month leading up to it, there were some things that happened that weren't his fault, and he took the blame for it. And I always respected him for that the way he
people
did
voted for this point, CK.
Hammered. And even now, with this kind of retribution campaign, and he's the star of the first one, he did something that Trump hasn't done. He said, let's go to court.
Yeah.
I'm innocent. Let's go to court. You know, Trump's always been, whether it was the Mar-a-Lago classified documents or go down a long list of stuff, he'd delay, he'd appeal, he'd do that, all the lawyer, you know, magic tricks he could do. Comey said, no, let's go. I mean, I've always thought that if Trump were that innocent of some of this stuff, he'd go, let's go to court on Monday, and could you do it at 10? Because I'm going to schedule a tea time at 3, because this is be dismissed in half an hour, because I'm innocent.
He never wanted to face the evidence or the facts or jury.
But Jim will do it. Jim will do it. And that tells me that he's going, bring it. This could be over in 2 hours.
Well, Trump will do it. Is that right? Dude, y'all elected the wrong dumbass. So let's see. I rarely show Majority Report, but this is it's the economy stupid. I think this video will make the point.
Is trying to cut a deal with Argentina to import more Argentine beef to increase supply here in the United States. And ranchers rather, on this front in the U.S. are like, okay, so we're importing Argentine beef now? Weren't the tariffs supposed to be about making sure that America is producing everything and onshoring this capacity? And ranchers were already hurting. The Biden administration had many flaws, but one of the strengths was Lena Khan and antitrust and Jonathan Cantor. And in late 2024, there was an article in Farm Aid talking about how the Biden administration had been fighting consolidation in the food systems. Explaining here, our food system has become more consolidated and less competitive over the past several decades. This consolidation means just a few companies control most agricultural inputs, like seeds and fertilizer, as well as how and where farmers can sell what they produce. This issue is particularly dire in the livestock industry, where 4 large meat packers, companies that slaughter, process, package, and distribute meat, control over 80% of the beef market. This consolidation has led to lower prices paid to farmers and higher prices paid by consumers. While the farmer share of the price of beef has dropped by 14% over the last 5 years, the price of beef in the supermarket has increased. So do you see what's happening there? Because of the monopoly power, this consolidation allowed to rip off both farmers and consumers on that front. Because
and
also
Moneybags gets the benefit,
right? And with fewer meat packers, bidding for the cattle here, that means that the ranchers with the cattle have less leverage, and the Biden administration was trying to correct that. Again, this is from 2024. President Biden has made it a priority to address competition issues. His executive order on promoting competition in the American economy included initiatives that empower USDA to stop abusive practices of meat processors and encouraged antitrust agents to focus efforts on agricultural markets in particular. Now let's smash cut to today, or at least late August. Trump revokes Biden order targeting food system consolidation. President Donald Trump has revoked a Biden-era executive order that tasked the U.S. Department of Agriculture and FTC with curbing consolidation across the food system to improve fairness and competition for farmers and consumers. So that is the underlying systemic problem here, which is the consolidation of money and the monopoly power of these meat packers.
Into J.D. Vance's pocket.
Oh,
he
yeah.
has a whole vested interest in consolidating farmland.
That's a great point. And so then you have the tariffs. That has been absolutely devastating for farmers and ranchers. On top of that, bailing out Argentina to the tune of, initially it was $20 billion, and then it was $40 billion because Trump's buddies are in bed with the psychotic anarcho-capitalist libertarian, definitely doesn't have sex with his sister, Javier Milei down in Argentina, and their currency has been falling apart. And to protect the business interests of his friends, he's giving away billions and billions of dollars in taxpayer money to Argentina, and then is screwing U.S. ranchers by importing beef from them while he's talking about America first. Here is Nebraska Farm Bureau President Mark McCarg, who is addressing and speaking out and saying, we're not too happy about this plan to import beef from Argentina.
Hello, ag friends. Hopefully your fall is going well. You know, some days you feel like you just can't catch a break in agriculture, but the cattle sector is one of the real bright spots here in the industry, and certainly in Nebraska, where we have a lot of mama cows. But unfortunately, we have an administration that thinks that they need to lower the price of beef. President Trump on Friday actually made a statement that said we should lower the price of beef, and ultimately that's lowering the price of cattle. That's not something we need to do. I just want our members to know that Nebraska Farm Bureau is adamantly opposed to anything that would artificially lower the price of beef. We have worked hard to get our cattle market where it is. It's a supply and demand issue right now. But quite frankly, we need this bright spot.
We really need to boycott.
So I've communicated with all of our federal delegation and let them know that we are opposed to any move that would artificially lower the price of beef cattle. They have worked that up to the leadership already today. And so stay tuned as we kind of follow this story. Hopefully we can get this tamped down, but just want to make sure that you know that I'm doing everything that I can as your president of Nebraska Farm Bureau to ensure that our beef sector here in Nebraska and the country continues to thrive. Until next time.
Dan Osborne, I would imagine, is already across this kind of thing, but thinking about his candidacy for Senate in 2026, leaning into this is important. And it's not just cattle ranch. It's not just cattle ranchers. It's not just the beef side of things. The soybean farmers are perhaps even more outraged by this, because when I mentioned that bailout to Argentina, a few days after he announced the initial $20 billion before upping it to $40 billion, Chinese importers ended up buying over 1 million metric tons of Argentine soybeans. And this was right as the harvest season in the United States began. And since I think the middle of the year, China has not imported basically zero soybeans from the United States.
I think since like April, May.
Soybeans are 14% of all U.S. agricultural exports, and China is the biggest importer. So here is this Illinois soybean farmer speaking about this to CNN in a segment from a few days ago.
John Bartman is a soybean farmer whose family has been working Illinois land since before the Civil War. Here in Marengo, a farming community where the land and sky feel endless, John sees a crisis on the horizon.
So this is 4,134. That's roughly $40,000 worth of soybeans that we have harvested. And a couple years ago, that was easily $60,000. It's what we do in this country. We export food. And we can't do that right now.
The price of soy dropped under the Trump administration, largely the result of the Trump administration's trade war with China. John's crops, diligently planted, meticulously cared for, are losing their value. Are you angry?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm totally mad. There's no reason for it. This is absolute stupidity. This is a man-made crisis caused by Donald Trump. Period.
Soybeans are the largest agricultural export from the U.S. Last year, the value was more than $24 billion. China bought 52% of those soybeans. Since May, the country has placed 0 orders. Instead, China bought the bulk of its soybeans from South American countries like Brazil and Argentina.
And that Argentina piece is what I mentioned, happening right after that bailout. So Honestly, this is the kind of story that Democrats across the country, regardless even of ideology, can capitalize on here.
Well, I mean, I'm from North Dakota. I mention it all the time. When I was growing up, North Dakota had 2 senators that were in the Democratic Party and 1 representative that was a Democrat. It was completely represented federally by Democrats, and it was entirely because farming requires central planning. It has for 100+ years, and you should know that. And instead, we've had people like Bill Clinton that have sort of loosened that sort of tight connection by orienting more towards the coast, more towards professionals. But fundamentally, as Kowalski mentioned, like farmers, they can be appealed to on the capitalist sort of line, but it's the government is the big show that if you're going to keep a small farm in existence, that requires government action.
And the reason Trump got elected in the first term in many ways is because he was so critical of the trade deals that had decimated farmers. I mean, you talk about Bill Clinton, that was an argument that Trump successfully made basically in 2016 in convincing the voters and farmers like this, ranchers like this, that he would be better on that. And now it's abundantly clear what he's doing. He's immiserating the industry. And by the way, likely incentivizing further consolidation, because the more farmers, the more ranchers, the more small businesses that they that fall by the wayside because they don't have the margins of these conglomerates, the more that market share can get bought up by the donors to the Republicans and Trump's buddies. And speaking of Donald Trump, he was on Air Force One, asked about this yesterday. Farmers are upset, the reporter asks. And he says, "Don't worry, little girl, shut your mouth," basically.
Question is, what do you have to say to U.S. farmers who feel that the deal is benefiting Argentina more than it is them, as they are
Argentina's fighting for its life, young lady. You don't know anything about it. They're fighting for their life. Nothing's benefiting Argentina. They're fighting for their life. You understand what that means? They have no money. They have no anything. They're fighting so hard to survive. If I can help them survive in a free world, I happen to like the president of Argentina. I think he's trying to do the best he can. But don't make it sound like they're doing great. They are dying. All right? They're dying.
What do you mean by
dying? What do you mean make it sound like they're doing great? That's not the question. No. That's not the question, Mr. America First. And we should ask, why are they doing so poorly? This is from 9 months ago. I cite this a lot because Milei went on stage with Elon Musk with a chainsaw, and the implication was they're going to try to do what they did to Argentina here in the United States, this gutting of the administrative state and open corruption. On Monday, this is again from 9 months ago, the National Statistics Agency announced that Argentina had exited the severe recession, blah, 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 with GDP growing. But Malay's severe spending cuts have hit the poor hard. Statistics show that for the first half of this year, this is 2024, almost 53% of Argentina's 45 million people were living in poverty, a 2-decade high, up from 41.7% in the second half of 2023. Some 18% of people were living in extreme poverty, while more than 6 out of 10 of under 14s lived below the poverty line. So just to repeat that was over half of Argentina's 45 million people living in poverty, a 2-decade high, up 41.7% in the second half of 2023. That's why they're in trouble, Donald Trump. It's because of right-wing policies like yours.
Libertarian economics. And, people might say, like, why is Argentina benefiting and not America? Neither is benefiting. This is not actually a nationalist issue. This is a class war that's being waged both on Americans and Argentinians. And the people...
Well, let's not even do that. This is Argentina first. Trump couldn't send that money to or use that money in a way that would lower our grocery prices. He wants Argentinian beef. The fuck? Brian Nichols, this is the electorate's fault. Y'all elected a motherfucker who does not care about your grocery prices.
That are benefiting in Argentina are not the manufacturing sector, which is being destroyed. Employment is collapsing in Argentina. What's benefiting is extractive industries that are interested, that foreign capitalists are interested in, like commodities like beef or mining and that sort of thing. And so so this is not helping Argentina either, but it's helping a certain class of capitalists that makes money with money and doesn't care about anything else that happens in any society.
And before we end it here, I just want to show how this is impacting the consumer a bit. I don't know if this chart is included in the archived article here from the Wall Street Journal. I put it in the Slack, a screenshot of it, which might be easier to use. But the Wall Street Journal last week had an article about the price changes for consumers in the United States. And coffee, it's okay, we don't need to put it up. Coffee just is exploding right now because of the tariffs, but ground beef continues to increase and increase and increase. In part because in terms of what we were importing,
there go your hamburgers, folks. McDonald's is going to double its prices for its Big
trade
Macs.
war with Brazil is predicated on his personal anger towards the Brazilian government and their legal system for prosecuting Jair Bolsonaro successfully and convicting him for trying to do a coup. Because, like, there's rumors right now, and I don't know if this will end up being the case, but that Trump is considering pardoning P. Diddy. And people are saying, well, why would he do this? Why would he? And who knows if he will end up doing it, but just like say he does, right?
Elite sex criminal.
Right. But it's the same thing here. Like, it's not about, he's not appealing to democracy. He's not appealing to the will of the people. He's doing this as a show of, I am pro-rapist. Yeah. No, these are my guys, the rapists.
George Santos.
And it's to all of our...
The crooks, these are my guys. Millet, this is my guy. This is about getting his folks out of power and showing to the rest of his movement that you can operate with impunity.
And it's to all of our detriment because places like Brazil are responding by just deepening their relationships with the people that we consider enemies, like China.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours.
Oh, oops. Sorry.
It is a pleasure to welcome back to the program, and I'm glad to see you're in one piece. Jasper.
Dude, this president is wrecking America. And it's the electorate, not the Democrats. It's the electorate. This weird thing, the Democrats weren't good enough for us to elect them. It's the Democrats' fault. So much bullshit. I wish someone would bring their bring that bullshit to my panel, folks. And by the way, hit the like button. Don't care if you don't. Your president, the one that Brian Nichols louds, dude, the motherfucker is taking us all down. The White House, fuck the White House. It's my house. It's DC Lago now. What a fucking moron. Oh boy. Republicans are ridiculing no kings. A striking new poll shows Americans aren't laughing.
Republicans have spent many days trying to marginalize the massive anti-Trump No Kings rallies held across the country over the weekend. They've argued the people involved were extremists and even predicted they would be violent, which turned out not to be true. They've claimed the protesters hate America. And they've argued that the No Kings message itself is nonsensical, given President Donald Trump is a democratically elected president who sometimes works with Congress. Trump said Sunday that the people are not representative of this country.
Now I get it.
He and his team have taken to mockingly
Now I get it. Democratically elected means Democrats, right? The fuck?
posting memes and AI videos with Trump donning a crown, including one that the president shared in which he dumps brown waste on protesters. House Speaker Mike Johnson added Monday night on Fox News that the protesters' messages were completely the opposite of what America was founded upon. New polling, though, reinforces how much the thrust of the No Kings message has resonated with much of the American public. In fact, a majority of Americans appear sympathetic to it, at least to some extent. And their ranks appear to be growing. The survey from the Public Religion Research Institute gave people two options. One was that Trump is a potentially dangerous dictator whose power should be limited before he destroys democracy. The other was that he's a strong leader who should be given the power he needs to restore America's greatness. Americans chose the dictator option by a strong margin, 56% to 41%. And notably, that margin has nearly doubled since April, when Americans also sided with the dictator option, but by a smaller 52% to 44% margin. The same poll also showed a 54% majority sided with the view that Trump is waging an assault on constitutional balances and the rule of law. The alternative was that his overhaul of the federal government is a long overdue correction of disastrous policies, 43%. It's possible to oversell poll numbers like this. Giving people binary choices can inflate numbers by making people choose one extreme or another. People who don't like Trump but don't think he's a dictator might feel compelled to choose the dictator option to avoid endorsing a man they don't like. But tellingly, the poll also asked people about the strength of their views. Fully 45% of Americans said they strongly agreed Trump was a dangerous dictator, and 43% strongly agreed that he's waging an assault on checks and balances and the rule of law. In both cases, nearly half of independents strongly agreed with those sentiments. These are, to put it mildly, not insignificant numbers. Say what you will about elements of the No Kings rallies, this polling suggests the thrust of the demonstrations hardly appears ridiculous to a majority of Americans. And this is merely the latest indicator that huge numbers of Americans have such concerns. Clear majorities see him exceeding his powers. Whether dictator or king are particularly apt labels, Americans are clearly sympathetic to the idea that Trump is abusing his power. 56% said Trump had gone too far in using the power of the presidency and executive branch, according to a July CNN poll. That was up from 52% in February. 57% said Trump had gone too far in using presidential power to achieve his goals. According to an April APNORC poll, 62% said Trump has gone beyond his authority as president. According to a September Washington Post Ipsos poll, 69% said Trump was exercising more presidential power than other recent presidents, and 49% said both that and that it was bad for the country. According to a September Pew Research Center poll, 54% of registered voters said he is exceeding the powers available to him.
You know what? Let's move on to this, which is rather more interesting. This is your Trump. This is who Brian Nichols voted for.
Out of Argentina is hitting another major obstacle. The Wall Street Journal reports multiple banks, just slow down on this, including JP Morgan, Bank of America, and Goldman Sachs, the big ones. They're out there hunting for collateral to back a $20 billion loan to the country because they want to make sure they get their money back. It would be part of the Trump administration's $40 billion lifeline. But U.S. banks have not been lending to Argentina. As the Journal notes, Latin America's third largest economy has missed sovereign debt payments 9 times, with 3 of those times just since the year 2000. According to Bloomberg, all of this is leading to doubt that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent can pull off this deal. With me now, my dear friends, David Gura, correspondent for Bloomberg and host of the Big Take podcast, and former Wall Street banker turned journalist Bill Cohen. He's a founding partner at Puck. You know these bankers better than anyone. What do you think is happening here?
They want to get their money paid back. They're not going to make a loan unless they think they can get money back.
The United States government already is extending a loan.
Right.
Now, these guys are being asked to do the same?
They're being asked to be part of the $40 billion package. They're looking for collateral for their $20 billion portion. I mean, they could maybe put a lien on the Patagonia Mountains. I mean, it's a beautiful country with a lot of natural resources, but I don't think that's the way bankers think.
So does that mean that the money that the U.S. government put forth to Argentina is not collateralized? So we, the taxpayer, will be on the hook if...
Now, in all fairness, there was actually some sort of mineral deal, some mining deal with Argentina. Bottom line is the American taxpayer will never be paid back.
Argentina defaults. And these banks who actually understand the risk are saying, I don't want to be on the hook for $20 billion. I want to find some collateral. So are we, the U.S. taxpayer, in a worse situation?
Yes. There were a lot of skeptics of this deal that Scott Bessent has put together pretty quickly here because of what you laid out, that we've been through this time and time again, often with other parties. The IMF has done this dozens of times, I think. And Scott Bessent is very keen to build this bridge, as he talked about, between now and this election that's coming up on Sunday. Time is running short. And to Bill's point, I think banks are looking at what detail they have, which is scant, largely conveyed on social media posts from the Treasury Secretary, and wondering sort of what this is exactly and how they can go along with it, given what they have and what they don't.
Do they have a choice? Or are they now in a situation with this administration, speaking of Darth Vader, when we tell you to play ball, you play ball?
It might be indirect, but I think they must feel like they have to do something here. And Jamie Dimon was cutting the ribbon to open his new headquarters here in New York today. He's going down to Buenos Aires this week for a previously planned trip, but he'll be there in the country as all of this is unfolding. And I think, as we've talked about a number of times on your show, CEOs are feeling like this administration is guiding them to do things time and time again. And this seems like an instance where that might be the case as well. You have the Treasury Secretary making the case to us, to them, that Argentina is systemically important to us, to this relationship.
Even though it's not a major trading partner.
It is
but
a much smaller
difference.
trading partner than Brazil, which we're putting huge punitive tariffs on.
But even if you're JP Morgan, there's a big difference between saying, give me $25 million for the ballroom and put up $20 billion for a country that notoriously defaults. Let's talk about what the president also wants to do. He's now proposing buying beef from Argentina, because we all know this, beef prices are on the rise in the United States. But we've already seen a Republican senator, Deb Fischer of Nebraska, say that this is going to hurt U.S.
Argentinian beef
and there's got to be
not
a better way to
being
lower prices.
tariffed.
What's your take on this? Because we already
What a
have
hypocrite.
U.S. soybean farmers saying, hold on, we're getting screwed in this trade war. Now we got cattle ranchers?
Yeah, and so I don't understand the whole economic policies of this administration. They're willing to hurt American farmers, American cattle ranchers, beef ranchers, and yet they're putting tariffs on foreign goods that are coming into this country, and they're bailing out our farmers after putting the tariffs on, and yet bailing out Argentina, which was supposed to be the great miracle in South America with Milei. I just am so confused, as I've said several times on this program before, by the economic policies of this administration. They make no sense.
Okay, well, here's something that's not confusing. The big business that's tied to this administration. New topic. Donald Trump Jr. is launching a SPAC. If you're not familiar, it is a special purpose acquisition company. It's basically a shell company that a well-known person is running, and people give that shell company a whole lot of money because they believe in the well-known person, and then that person buys a bunch of businesses. These SPACs blew up fantastically just in the last 5 years to the tune of billions and billions of dollars. Now Donald Trump Jr., the Trump family has killed it financially over the last 5 months, is building a SPAC.
Yeah, that's
nepotism. Laura Ingraham from Fox, she's one of the people involved in this deal. Do you want to walk us through this?
I'll try, and then Bill can jump in with his expertise.
I can't wait to jump in.
But Chamath Palihapitiya, who is a venture capitalist and SPAC backer and podcast co-host as well, is behind this. And the problems with it are it signals there's a frothiness to the market. This isn't as regulated as a company going public through a traditional route, through an initial public offering. And you are banking on the expertise or the connections of somebody who's trying to put together this marriage once this company goes public.
I have to ask a question. I hear a whole bunch of bullshit from far right blacks, the Coon blacks, the Uncle Tom blacks, who want their kids to learn a trade. What the fuck trade does Donald Trump Jr. have? Dude, y'all are fools for voting for this motherfucker. He has literally walked on your backs. Oh boy. Go learn a trade while Donald Trump Jr. fucking launches a SPAC.
So I think there are all kinds of pitfalls here. We saw them a few years back when SPACs were really popular. There's a time limit during which this can happen, but folks like Chamath and Donald Trump Jr.
What's up, Richard?
Those who are backing these SPACs tend to benefit much more than those who are investing in at the beginning. So they stand to gain a lot more than.
But right now they're looking around and saying, "Look at all those people buying Trump meme coins."
Kenya,
Well, Chamath
did John Galt pull up a SPAC from that clogged drain? The drain was clogged. And they called me in, and I pulled up a SPAC.
Big time during SPAC 1, okay? He cashed in, and the companies, the preponderance of companies that he brought public through these SPACs have gone down the tubes. So he got out when the getting was good. He made $1 billion or more. And now, the companies that he created through the SPAC mergers have basically come a cropper, and now he's coming back and doing it again.
Okay, well then guess what? Buyer beware.
Well,
if you don't do your homework, it's on you. Before we go, I do want to ask you, Warner Brothers, the company is officially putting itself up for sale after initially saying they were going to split into two companies. What can you tell us?
Well, they still may split up into two companies. That could happen as soon as April. But I think David Zaslav at Warner Brothers Discovery and his board have realized this company is in play. We're going to sell it to the highest bidder. And whether that's, Larry Ellison and Paramount Skydance, Netflix, Comcast, who's still, I believe, the parent company of this channel, could all be players in this, or the split up plan could work. I mean, whatever creates the highest value for shareholders is what David Zaslav and his board will do. He's recognized that at this point.
What do you think we're in for?
Well, this is happening very quickly. I think I was talking to Lucas Shaw, who's covered this for us at Bloomberg, and he was saying it would be good to know sort of the direction that David Ellison, if he buys this company, might take it, if we could watch him handle Skydance Paramount for a little while longer. He hasn't. It's been just a few months now. So he's brokered a big mega merger within the last year.
He hasn't even released the first quarter his earnings.
Because even though David Ellison clearly has the money and could do this, his father does. He might say, let me spend a little time figuring this business out before I dive right in. Or he might go big because he's not going home.
Yep, the rich get richer by while beef prices go up. That is literally Trump's America. Congratulations, MAGA. You done fucked yourself. So let's see, smart beds flip. This was a weird story. Apparently, Amazon Web Services had an outage, and beds were flipping. So gotta hear this. It is wacky.
This podcast sponsored by SD Services. School's back. But need electrical upgrades for outdoor lights, fans? Go to sdsair.com today.
Out during the AWS outage, and so did their sleepy owners. A news story written by Leo Sands and read by an AI-generated voice. Banks failed to transfer their clients' money. Gamers lost their streaks. Peloton riders struggled to log into classes. For a few hours early Monday, a service outage at Amazon Web Services triggered a rippling cascade of error messages and system malfunctions across the internet, revealing just how much daily life functions on the cloud-based servers of one provider. But perhaps the rudest awakening was felt by those sleeping on 8 Sleep's high-spec internet-enabled mattresses. As the outage caused cloud servers to fail, people reported being awoken in discomfort by beds that locked in an upright incline, became unbearably warm, blinked flashing lights, or even sounded a wake-up alarm. That is not the experience we want to provide, and I want to apologize for it, said Matteo Francischetti, the chief executive of 8 Sleep, which also manufactures and sells internet-enabled mattress covers and pillow covers. In a social media post, he explained that the malfunctions were the result of the AWS outage and said engineers were racing to build an outage-proof mode in the event of a future outage. 8 Sleep did not immediately respond to a request for further comment early Wednesday. As of Monday evening, Francischetti said all devices were functioning, although some were still experiencing data processing delays. The company's internet-enabled mattresses allow users to adjust their bed's temperature between 55 and 110 degrees, elevate their body into different positions, as well as activate immersive soundscapes and vibrational alarms. The most advanced product bundles retail for over $5,000, in addition to a yearly subscription costing $199 to $399 that is required to enable the temperature controls. The malfunction.
An internet-enabled mattress. Wow, that is something. So, as I mentioned earlier, Cuomo and Mom Donnie are going to try and go at it again tonight. Let's see, in 20 minutes. So, I'll find another video. Honestly, if they're not on time, then this show will end early so I can actually get up and do a show tomorrow at the normal time. This is funny.
You voted for Trump because of
This ought to be
RFK's
good.
health views? Are you... That's
What's up,
like
SB?
hiring the mama because the son is on that stuff. Like, why would that be...
I doubt it.
Why
It
would
couldn't
that
keep
be a
up with my
plus?
thoughts,
And
SB.
why would that lead your decision making? That's... Hey, shout out to all of the subscribers and members here on the channel. Don't forget to like the video. I am Reese Waters, and I'm troubled. Now, two things that I have tried to make pretty clear here on this platform. I pull absolutely no punches when it comes to people who wouldn't act in their own best interest with the misguided thought that they would somehow be protected and the worst would befall people who look like, ooh, I don't know, myself, even when someone who looked like myself was actually trying to protect you. Yeah, and I'm talking specifically about Latinos for Trump. That's one thing that I've made clear. Another thing that I've made pretty clear is that I am, as I was immediately after the election, as I was before the election, as I was all of last year, going back as far as I can remember, opposed to the ongoing demonization, characterization, and inhumane treatment and rhetoric which has been directed at our most vulnerable populations, whoever they happen to be. With those two things in mind, I want to show you something.
No one deserves to go through something like this behind bars. He has lived in Florida for more than half his life and worked for the same construction job for many decades. Every day that goes without him here is a day lost forever. This is about being human, about love, connection, and presence. The one thing he needs the most is the one thing that we're being kept from giving him, which is us. I feel that it would be immoral and inhumane to let a man who is suffering, who is terminally ill, spend what little time he has left in pain and isolation. Please don't let him die in a cell. Please don't let his vital memories be of those of pain and isolation. The American flag stands for compassion, kindness, liberty, and justice for all. We're all human, and today I'm asking for one human act of compassion to please let my dad come home.
No, SB.
Thank you for
Those ads pop up basically to what you navigate to as far as what you're seeing online. It's a proxy for thinking. It's not a direct, like, tapped into your brain. I don't do the silliness. No, those ads do not know what you're thinking. They know what you're navigating to. Stop it, young lady.
Staying with us and providing testimony.
Maybe they know what you're thinking about buying, but people have other types of thoughts other than
However, I've listened to your
consumption.
testimony carefully. My vote, again, is to deny the request for conditional medical release. I know that's not what you wanted to hear, but
I listened very closely to your statement, and you used the words that the American flag represents compassion, kindness, liberty, and justice. And those are all the things that we have to take into consideration, both on behalf of the citizens of our state as well as the person whose case we're hearing. And we make these difficult decisions. And so I am going to continue with my previous vote, which was to deny the request for conditional medical release. That would be a majority vote to deny the request for conditional medical release.
Now, I'll be honest. I had a very hard time seeing that, not just because of the situation that her father finds himself in, but the situation that she finds herself in. And as you probably read in the captions, people in seeing it did a little bit of digging in who she is and how she found herself in this situation.
Hey guys, there's this girl going viral right here. Her name is Cynthia. Her dad has stage 4 colon cancer and is being held at a cold center. And she is from somewhere in Florida. And she's really pushing that GoFundMe and pulling on people's heartstrings. But I do want to add that she did vote for this.
I would not wish this on my worst enemy, okay? As someone who has lost her father, I do not wish this on you or anyone else, even if you voted the way you did. However, to find out you voted for Trump, and now you're asking for help because Trump is doing the thing that he said he was going to do, and then the reasoning on why you voted for him, I don't understand. I simply do not understand. Nobody deserves this, nobody. But you voted the way you did, and there are a lot of individuals out there that are in the same circumstances, thought the same way you did, and now are in similar circumstances asking for help. Like, it baffles me, and I was like highly invested in your story. And again, I would not wish this on my worst enemy, but be so for real.
Now, one thing that I do want to add is I'm not exactly sure what her motivations were in this, but she did record herself. She recorded herself in an extremely vulnerable moment in her life, and a pivotal moment in her father's life, what would be a pivotal moment in her father's life. And I'm not sure what her reasonings were for doing that, but in doing so, it continues to be a brick in a multi-level mansion that's being built in the inhumanity of this administration, which for her part in installing this administration, she seems to be also doing some part to characterize it in a certain way. And in that regard, it kind of becomes.
Let me make this clear. If there was an app or some AI tracking what I think, it would be to send an American history book to every motherfucking address in the United States of America. So I don't think that my thoughts are being tracked.
You know, like the George Lopez joke. Remember we were mad at the George Lopez joke? Because I saw that some people were mad that she recorded it. How people, you know, on social media will record moments and pretend like it's organic and spontaneous. Well, it just becomes like that anti-black George Lopez joke.
There's still 2 rules in the fucking Latinos family. Don't marry somebody black and don't park in front of our house.
We can be mad at George Lopez for telling the joke, but one thing he did was give us evidence of the anti-blackness that we could reference decades later, now that they have acknowledged it themselves. And that, I must say, is valuable. Now, to what the last woman said, because she said,
I don't think tinfoil will
she
work.
talked about her reasonings for voting that way. That was curious too. Okay, so the initial poster writes, I'm so sorry about what you're going through as a black immigrant. I noticed that you reposted Trump and RFK. Did you think it was only us they were deporting? Why did you vote this way? To which he responds, thank you, and you have every right to ask. To be honest, I only voted for Trump because I supported RFK's health views and believed in his message about making America healthier. When RFK dropped out, I made a decision without fully informing myself on Trump's plans, especially around immigration. That was my mistake. I didn't realize how deeply it would affect families until now. I'm owning that and speaking up because no one should have to go through what we are going through right now. I'm trying. No, I'm trying. I'm trying. I'm trying. You voted for Trump because of RFK's health views? Are you... That's like hiring the mama because the son is on that stuff. Like, why would that be a plus, and why would that lead your decision making? That's with your dad in that situation. Now, does this mean I don't have to pay my school loans? What about my car loans? Now, because it's shut down too. The administration shut down the government because they would rather punish you than work together to make things better for you. But you know this already. Did you know that this administration and the government shut down their willingness to protect your privacy? That was done years ago, and we're still feeling the effects. Our government rolled back a rule that would have required data brokers to get your consent before selling your information. This has empowered data brokers who take all the information they can find and sell it to the highest bidder without your knowledge, which makes it even worse when we know the government lets them do it. Legally, data brokers do have to remove your private information if you tell them, but of course they make it as hard as possible to do so. They want you to feel hopeless and stuck. Sound familiar? And this is where today's sponsor, Aura, comes in. Aura does the hard work for you, constantly scanning the dark web and submitting opt-outs on your behalf. Give Aura a few weeks and you'll stop seeing your information on these sketchy sites when you search yourself. Aura makes it much easier. Aura doesn't just opt you out of data brokers, though. Their app includes other features like dark web monitoring, fraud alerts, a VPN, and more. It's truly a great deal if you want to be more private and protected online. You can go to my link, aura.com/Reese Waters, to try 14 days for free. Again, that's aura.com/Reese Waters, and that 14 days is enough. Just use your imagination. They got very disrespectful, which is not my intention here today. So here's what I found in the thoughtful and reflective category of response.
Latina content creator right here voted for Donald Trump, and her terminally ill father ended up getting deported. Now this story is going viral on the internet because people are using this as a way to attack people who voted against their own self-interest. But I gotta talk to my Latino people here, the people that voted for Donald Trump or have undocumented immigrants in their own families. It's like, listen, man, I get it. You have your own personal political beliefs, and you have every right to have them, right? But sometimes in life it's good to be self-aware. Sometimes in life is very good to think of, okay, this may not affect me personally, right? But can it possibly negatively affect people around me? And if the answer is yes, man, sometimes it's best to just be like, you know what, I'm gonna stay out of this one. Because if this ends up being you, man, you're gonna lose your whole family behind it, man. They already didn't like it for the fact that you was already voting over there, and now you went and casted your vote, gave them a helping hand, and then we lose pops, or we lose moms, or we lose our uncle, or you lose a sibling. And if you do want to vote, you don't have to speak about it. Vote privately. Don't tell nobody, right? But a lot of y'all men came out here screaming at the top of your lungs, man, like, nah, we gotta get Trump in there. No, y'all undocumented fucking parents, bro, or relatives or friends. That's just my take. I believe in self-awareness, man. I believe that being self-aware is very important. And yeah, shit's crazy.
Now, I love that one for two reasons. One, he mentioned, will it affect anybody else? Will it affect those that I love? Will it affect the people around me? Taking care for your fellow man. Like so many of us have been tasked with doing, both last year on through to today, thinking about us. That's one thing. But he mentioned self-awareness, and isn't that so missing from so many of these conversations that we've been having about this particular issue?
If you look on the video on the screen, she wrote that she made the wrong choice as millions of others did. And now is not the time. Now is not the time for us to be against each other. Now is the time for us to come together and to have unity and compassion and action. Those were her words. But you weren't thinking like that when you went in the booth, made your vote on the 5th of November, 2024. That's not what you were thinking about, was it, Cynthia? You thought your vote was going to harm Black people because, as a rule, as a means to assimilate into white supremacy, harming Black people is what it takes. So you and your dad wanted to be on the side of whiteness. So that is why you voted the way you did, because you felt like any negative things that happened, you would.
You know what? I don't like her approach. It just sounds really just annoying. Do better, ma'am.
Would be saved, because all your life
you can do this without
your dad had raised
so
you
snarky.
to be on the side of whiteness, to assimilate into whiteness, to be against Black people. That's what you were raised to do. So that's what you did. And now you're getting what you deserve, and so is your dad. I'm in agreement with the decision of the powers that be and denied. And that's what it is.
Now, the idea that compassion is needed and now's not the time to be against one another is so ironic, because that vote is such a vote for us to be against one. That is a vote for non-compassion, is what that was. That's the crazy irony to hearing that from people whose hands are on this Trump 47 administration. Now, as far as the characterization that she thought she was white and this was going to happen to Black people, I would go that far based on what she had said in the message. She said that she voted because of RFK's, because he was on the dog food, or something about how he said racism. No, actually, you could be like the Avengers or something like that. Something that she liked RFK. So I was just thinking she was just
Let's
Like,
belabor the point for minutes.
not thoughtful. Like, just not it was not a thoughtful vote. That's what she had put down. That's all I had to go on. And then she recorded a whole nother video. And that video is actually the reason why I made this video, because I wouldn't have made it initially just for the first one. I made it because we've had so many conversations about how we got here, specifically with regards to the Latino vote. We tried to explain it based on conditioning from past regimes, right?
There's a girl in her going viral because her dad got deported and she voted for Trump. She's Cuban. I want to explain for the younger white people why she voted Trump. Cubans are mostly Republican. This is for a few reasons. One, until President Obama was in office, Cubans could not be illegal in America. We had a policy that if they could swim over here, they could stay. That's because we were largely anti-communist, and because the people who fled Cuba were the ones who did not like communism, it's the right-wing Cubans who left. Then they landed in South Florida, where everybody's fucking rich and opulent and spending money. And they're like, haha, this is great. Of course they are Republicans still, because they couldn't be deported. And there's a lot of issues between the Cubans and the Mexicans, because the Cubans would kind of like talk shit to the Mexicans, like, why are you here illegally? And the Mexican would be like, the fuck do you mean? I got here the same way you did. They just made a law that made it okay for Cubans. Cubans are like, yeah, it's because they like us. And Cubans usually have lighter skin, so it's a whole thing. But anyway, Obama made them illegal. And so I guess that didn't turn them left either. But they didn't really think that went through.
Now, I can't put myself in the mindset of somebody who comes in with the conditioning of dealing with a brutal regime in a foreign country. However, I would think that the indicators of said regime would be the most offensive things. I would think that the signposts of authoritarianism would be the most problematic. So I patently reject that, especially considering that it was the left that enabled your immersion in the first place. We've tried to explain it via right-wing propaganda.
You're undocumented and you support Donald Trump.
I support Donald Trump for the economy.
The economy where? Huh? The economy where? The economy.
Well, the economy in your home country. Yeah, exactly.
Because I don't see how you would be supporting Donald Trump based on the economy here when you're undocumented with the threat of being deported. And we've also tried to explain it via just plain old-fashioned anti-blackness. You know, the thing that's staring us right in the face. And I don't even have to reference us calling it this. They've called it themselves.
Some of the Latino support for Trump was a vote against the prospect of the first black female president.
There's still a lot of machismo. There's still a lot of misogyny. And something that we need to say aloud is there's a lot of anti-blackness.
Are y'all ready to talk about it? Huh? Are y'all ready to talk about it? You know, the same anti-blackness that we see at work today for not being blank man on the spot to come to their rescue.
The selective outrage that some of you all are giving black people for not going out in the street and protesting kind of reminds me of how Kyrie was punished for sharing a link, but Amazon was in touch for showing the movie. You know what I'm talking about?
Folks, at some point, we're going to move to the Mamdani Cuomo debate once it starts. So, so enjoy this such as it is.
Well, I have been telling a lot of our black people not to go out in the street and protest, as are some of my mutuals. Not to go out in the street and protest. That is not our time. Our time meaning that this is not the time for us to go out in the street. This is the time for us to boycott. I have said personally it's not our fight. Right, it's not. It's not our physical fight. That does not mean that we don't stand with our brown brothers and sisters. That does not mean that we're not sympathetic and empathetic to what's going on over in LA. I think that there is an immigration issue that we do need to have corrected. However, I think the way that it's being done is barbaric, and we don't want anybody doing anything that it is unlawful to any of our brothers and sisters. None of them. However, as black people, we know that when we go out in the street, It's a whole different ball game. We're the ones that's being unalived. We're the ones that's being jailed. We know that we just get treated differently. Why would we go out there and experience that bloodshed? We've done it for so long. We've been on the front lines. We have sacrificed ourselves for a very, very long time. And the white people who aren't allies, some of them, even in my comments, have said, no, y'all stay home.
What's up,
We
Mr.
already know what happened
Bardwell?
when y'all go out there. We got it. Stay home. And then you got some white people that are like, well, especially Latin people that are like, why aren't y'all here? Like, y'all need to come on and y'all need to do this and blah, 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 blah. And for me, it's a no. It's going to be a no.
But here, she explains it in her own words.
As easy as it would be for me to say that I wasn't thinking when I voted or that I don't watch the news, I had to ask myself the same question that hundreds of you are asking me, is why did I vote the way I did? I've spent the last few days reflecting, and I feel like I came through some sort of revelation or like blindfolds were ripped off my eyes. I started.
She might get the time to cast a vote for the next leader, dictator of the country she came from. Hopefully she'll put some thought in that. Now, I am being mean. It's 3/4 of a joke, but think before you cast your vote for the next dictator. Y'all fucking elected a dictator in the United States, so do better in your home country.
Seeing things differently. I questioned my beliefs, my choices, and my role in all of it. I started to realize that it wasn't just this one choice I made. It was kind of a accumulation of choices I've been making for years. Like, for example, when I had my first daughter, I never taught her Spanish because I didn't care to have her learn Spanish. And after having my second daughter, I kind of knew that I wanted her to speak Spanish because I wanted her to be able to speak with my family and connect with them and have a sense of belonging with them.
Wait. So you wanted to teach your second daughter Spanish because you wanted her to be able to communicate with your family and have a sense of belonging, but that was not a priority to be able to communicate with your family and have a sense of belonging? Because we started this with your love and affinity for your father, who is in line for deportation. So presumably he's also amongst who you were talking about, but you didn't see the need to teach your first child Spanish to communicate with him.
Well, her second child's going to have to call him
more
long
than
distance.
RFK. Yeah, let's make that clear.
The hate I received online, although it was harsh.
Oh, no,
feel
I
like it
didn't
was
hear. I've
so
seen,
needed,
Ryan.
and I'm so thankful
I
for
hope
it
you
because
get
it made me
to
realize things that I was
participate in
blind
that
to for
court.
so many years.
He's
I feel
building
like
a
living
castle
in South Florida,
that used to
surrounded
be
by
called the White
Republican
House. It'll be
voices,
called White
I
Castle
was
now.
brainwashed
Hopefully
into
you'll be
thinking
in
I
his
was
court.
one of them. I fell for the propaganda, the normalization of cruelty, and I believe the lies that gave me a false sense of security and belonging.
Now, we've heard about this journey for Cubans, specifically for quite a while now. We've talked about it right here on this platform, and I, for one, am happy to see that your eyes are open and that you have realized the propaganda for what it was, and you can call out the cruelty. But see, the thing is, that happened because it affected you. Like it needed to affect you before you could call out cruelty. And in affecting you, it's affecting everybody. We're all affected. But I am happy that you're in a better place now, though.
I was convinced that voting for Trump was for the economy or against crime, when in reality I was supporting a man and a movement that dehumanizes people.
No, we're not. That's done. No, that's the, hey, no, we voted for Trump for the economy or against crime will be tolerated. That is done. Try again. The man came in with felonies. Stop it. No, and bankruptcy. He came in with felonies and bankruptcy. What are we talking about here? I voted for the Joker, for the comedy.
He basically built his platform on targeting immigrants.
All right. Well, I hate to stop this in the middle of this young lady, but the debate has started. And everyone, please make sure you hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Try it out. If you don't like it, you're free to go. So this is, I think, important to hear.
On the globe. But we are at a pivotal moment.
These are opening statements.
Decide in this election what candidate has the plan to save this city and what candidate can get it done.
Oh, that's funny, DiCaprio.
My main opponent has no new ideas. He has no new plan. It's Bill de Blasio rehash, and we know how that turned out. He's never run anything, managed anything. He's never had a real job. I will hire 5,000 new police, build 500,000 new units. I will cut taxes. I will grow jobs, and I will end.
I am desperate. I am desperate for your vote.
Apart. Because that's not who we are as New Yorkers. You know I can make change. You know I can make government work. I've done it before. I'll be ready on day one.
Okay, thank you. Next is
so he can make government work.
Good evening. Thank you to the moderators.
Government
and
zip
thank you to New Yorkers for tuning in.
down his
I know you'd
zipper.
rather be watching the Knicks. While there are 3 candidates on the stage, you will hear only 2 messages. My opponents, who spend more time trying to convince up out than actually proposing their own policies, will speak only of the past, because that's all that they know. I am the sole candidate running with a vision for the future of this city. Andrew Cuomo will spend much of tonight attacking me. He is a desperate man.
Thanks for what? This is what I do, Ryan. I like politics.
Power is now
especially contentious
He will
politics.
amplify right-wing talking points. He will share conspiracy theories.
It has
and he will
its
do these
own
things to make you feel that
brand
this
of
should keep you
fuckery.
up at night. But I've been spending the last year listening to New Yorkers, and I know what actually keeps you up. It's whether or not you can afford to live a safe and dignified life in this city. I have plans for our future. My opponents only have fear.
Thank you very much, candidates. Let's start tonight with some breaking news that happened
Wow.
yesterday afternoon when federal agents descended on Canal Street, arresting street vendors who have been selling counterfeit designer merchandise for as long as any of us can remember. This is the first time we've seen major federal law enforcement activity in the city outside of arrests at immigration court in lower Manhattan. And some critics are now ringing an alarm bell.
I want to
calling
send
it a
ICE to
dangerous and
Trump
unprecedented
Tower
use of federal
and see
agents
what they
in
turn
New York
up.
City. Others say that the vendors were a major quality of life problem in the neighborhood that the NYPD had ignored. So the candidate, I'll ask each of you to respond to this. How should the mayor and the NYPD have handled both the presence of the street vendors and then the federal action? We'll start with you, Mr. Cuomo.
I've had a lot of dealings with President Trump. And there's only one way to deal with him. He
Trump
puts his
Tower.
finger in
I
your chest,
demand
and
it.
you have to put your finger right back in his chest. I've actually had this situation with ICE interfering in New York before. It was upstate New York where ICE just showed up and started to take action. And I called the president and I went down to the White House and I said, that doesn't work in New York. You don't send ICE in without coordinating with our police. It's not smart, it's duplicative, and it's dangerous. We don't need ICE to do quality of life crimes. We don't need them to worry about illegal vendors. That's a basic policing function for NYPD, consumer affairs, etc. I would have called the president and I would have said, look, you're way out of bounds, they're way out of bounds, call them back or I'm going to have the
And
NYPD
Trump would have said,
step in
do
and
something
stop
about
them.
it, Guido.
Because this is not their jurisdiction. You're in the city of New York.
Okay, Mr. Mamdani.
ICE is a reckless entity that cares little for the
Green
law and
card's
even
not
less for
going
the
to
people
save
that
your
they're supposed to
ass
serve. What we need to be
being
doing here in
deported.
our city
It
is
hasn't
to
so
end
far.
the chapter of collaboration between City Hall and the federal government, which we've seen under Mayor Adams. What we need to do is actually pass the street vending reform bills that have been in the city council, some of which that this mayor has actually overridden. That's an example of how we can both protect street vendors, ensure quality of life, and leave no stone unturned in delivering for the people of the city, as opposed to working with a president who is looking to declare war on those
boy,
same people.
you're on fire, DiCaprio, no?
Unlike both of my adversaries, I've patrolled that area many times, Church and Canal. And as you said, Errol, that activity has been going on for a long time. Selling the knockoff, sometimes stolen contraband by a series of people. The local 5th Precinct, they make arrests when they have obviously cause to do so, and they complain that they have to release them because of no cash bail, of which both of my adversaries are in favor of and I'm not. The feds should not have stepped into this situation. There is not communication between the local authorities and the feds. This is a matter that should have been left up to the NYPD. But we can't tolerate citizens attacking our federal law enforcement forces in the street because then that will just lead to anarchy.
Let me ask a related question. President Trump has been commenting on this race and all of you on a regular basis. He's been less than glowing when talking about each of you, especially you, Mr. Mamdani. I'd like you each to describe whatever combination of defiance, diplomacy, and cooperation you will use as mayor.
I hope Mamdani says
continues to increase the federal government's role in the affairs of our city while also threatening to decrease funding. Start with you this time, Mr. Sliwa.
Well, both my adversaries have decided to bump chests with President Trump to prove who's more macho. You can't beat Trump. He holds most of the cards. He's already cut federal funding for Medicaid, for the SNAP program, and it's threatened to cut funds for NYCHA. So if you're all of a sudden going to get adversarial, you're going to lose. And who gets hurt? The people of New York City. With Trump, it's always the art of the deal. You have to go, you have to try to negotiate, whether it's with his minions or himself. He'll want you to give in order to get a little bit. But if you immediately act like you're going to take him on, like, you know, it's going to be a one-on-one fight, we're going to lose. All the people in New York City are going to lose. You have to be able to show respect. And I think if you show respect, you'll get respect.
Protests outside this debate.
The New Yorkers who are so desperately in need of federal funds. What's the good of it? They'll bump chests with Donald Trump. They won't get the money, and then they'll blame Donald Trump. I will negotiate with Donald Trump and try to get the best deal possible for our poor and indigent citizens.
Okay, Mr. Cuomo.
Yeah, the difference on this question is I've actually lived it and I've done it with President Trump over many years through the most difficult situation that this country has gone through, COVID plus. You're wrong. You're going to have to confront President Trump. He is hyper-aggressive, and he is going to overstep his bounds. And you are going to have to confront him. And you can beat him. I confronted him, and I have beaten him. He was going to quarantine New York during COVID, and I stopped him. He was going to cut aid to federal programs, and I stopped him. But you also want to be in a place where you can cooperate on good things, because we need federal help if we're going to save our city and rebuild our city. President Trump has to respect you. He sent the National Guard into 20 cities. City he didn't send it into? New York. Because I talked to him and I said, we don't need you here. He has said he'll take over New York if Mamdani wins, and he will, because he has no respect for him. He thinks he's a kid and he's going to knock him on his tuchus. So it is a balance, but you're going to have to be adversarial when you need to, but you want to cooperate to get good things done in this city, and you need federal help.
Mamdani.
We first just heard from the Republican candidate for mayor, and then we heard from Donald Trump's puppet himself, Andrew Cuomo. You could turn on TV any day of the week, and you will hear Donald Trump share that his pick for mayor is Andrew Cuomo. And he wants Andrew Cuomo to be the mayor, not because it would be good for New Yorkers,
we don't do that in this
chat.
chat.
For him.
delete it,
Donald
please.
Trump ran on 3 promises. He ran on creating the single largest deportation force in American history. He ran on going after his political enemies, and he ran on lowering the cost of living. If he wants to talk to me about the 3rd piece of that agenda, I will always be ready and willing. But if he
What's
wants
up,
to talk
Troop?
about how to
Good to see you.
pursue the 1st and 2nd piece of that agenda at the expense of New Yorkers, I will fight him every single step of the way.
Okay.
Well, he was never popular in New York. His kids certainly aren't.
That's not what Donald Trump said. Donald Trump does an analysis of the race. Donald Trump, I believe, wants Mamdani. That is his dream because he will use him politically all across the country, and he will take over New York City. Make no mistake. It will be President Trump and Mayor Trump, and he will come in and take over the city. I have no doubt. All he said was, his analysis is after the polls, it's a tough choice between a Democrat and a communist. And he considers Mamdani a communist. He happens to be a socialist. But between a communist and a Democrat, it's a tough choice for him.
Okay. All right. Thank you, candidates. Brian wants to talk to you about some important issues on the minds of New Yorkers.
Hi, candidates. Thank
You
you
know,
for coming
Ryan,
tonight.
New
and the
York
cost of
City
living
did not
is our
vote
next topic.
as a
You've all
block for
cited it
Trump.
as a major
Does
factor,
that
and of
not
course, so
tell
many
you
New
something?
Yorkers are
He
experiencing
could be
this,
from there.
especially when
Shit,
it
he
comes
was
to
born
rising
there.
housing
They don't
costs.
like him.
And
He's a
many New
dick.
Yorkers were shocked this week as a new report from the group Advocates for Children revealed that about 154,000 New York City public school students have been homeless at some point during the last year. 65,000 lived in homeless shelters. Even more were in doubled up situations with no home of their own. It's never been over 150,000 before, they tell us. And it amounts to 1 in 7 New York City kids. As mayor, how would each of you tackle this problem to help this vulnerable population? And in this round, we're going to go Mr. Mamdani, Mr. Cuomo, Mr. Sliwa. So, Mr. Mamdani, you go first.
This is a stain.
His
on
dad
our city
was a
to
fucking
see this
Klan
many
member.
children in our public school system be homeless,
Or at least
and
a
to know that this is the
Klan
9th
rally
consecutive year
attender,
that it's more than 100,000 of those
developer,
children.
who cares?
What we need to do
Ryan?
is ensure that next year is not the same, and we are going to do that by building the housing necessary such that New Yorkers are not priced out of this city or forced to live in shelters. And that's why my campaign is going to deliver 200,000 new affordable homes across the 5 boroughs, all while freezing the rent for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants. Now, in the public school system, we also have a program called Every Child and Family is Known. It links a child who is living in a homeless shelter with an employee of the public school system. It also links that employee with the child's family. It's been shown to increase attendance records, self-esteem, a level of belonging in that school system. I am going to increase that pilot program to more than 200 schools, and we're going to do it because we have to deliver for these children.
Mr. Cuomo. Yeah.
Oh
Zumar is a
boy.
great actor.
Oh
He
boy.
missed his call.
Lots of claps.
Freeze the rent sounds great. Yeah, it affects about 25% of the number of housing units in the city.
Yes,
of New York.
really,
It's
Ryan.
not a new idea. Bill
Look
de
it
Blasio
up.
did it. It turned out to be a debacle. And it does
Papa
nothing for
Trump
75% of the units.
attended
and for the
Klan
25,
rally.
it just postpones
And
the increase.
I think it
and
might have
actually,
been with Donald,
causes us to lose
but I'm not
units
sure about
because
that.
landlords took them off
But
the market.
Fred Trump was a
Address
fucking
the homeless
racist.
children question, and we will get to rent freeze.
Yeah, well, the
Where do you think
homeless-
Trump got it
The answer to
from?
homeless children is you need more affordable housing. And I'm saying freeze the rent was done under de Blasio. It doesn't work. It's a canard and just a great 3-word slogan for TikTok.
I don't think he
The way
looks
to
hungover, John.
Increase availability of affordable housing is to build affordable housing. I was the HUD secretary. I did it all across the country. We have 1% vacancy rate. We're not building enough affordable housing, and you need a competent, productive government to do that. And that's what I've done across
Notice
the
how
country,
Mom
across
Donnie
the
doesn't
state.
even
Make
look at this
government work.
fool.
You get the supply up, the
Mom
rents will come
Donnie
down.
has no use for Cuomo.
Okay, Mr. Mamdani, you were named, so you get 30 seconds.
Governor
We are in
Chester the
ninth consecutive
molester.
year of more than 100,000 children in the New York City public school system being homeless. That means it began when Andrew Cuomo was the governor. And what did he do? What did he do about it? He did not do anything. He spent more money on a singing water fountain at LaGuardia Airport than he did on the average cost of an affordable housing unit. That is the record that we have in display, and what we need is a change in this city, not more of the same.
I'm sorry to hear that, John.
The homeless issue, number of homeless since I left, has more than doubled during his administration and the state's administration. Since I left, homeless rate has more than doubled. When I left, the vacancy rate on housing was
His administration. What the
4.5%.
fuck is
It's
Cuomo
now
talking about?
1%.
The dude is a
This
state
man
senator.
never even proposed a bill on housing or education. Never even proposed a bill.
Keep going back and forth between the two of you. Mr. Sliwa, it's your turn.
Andrew, you didn't leave. You fled from being impeached by the Democrats in the state legislature. Leave. You fled. But let's get back on topic, because I'm the only candidate up here who's been into many of the over 300 Department of Homeless Services shelters, and the family shelters are unsafe for the families there. We have to make them safer. We have to bring teachers into the shelter. Many times, the mothers or the guardian have to get on bus after bus and take them to a school that's 2 or 2.5 hours away. This is a horror situation that's taking place. And we have to prioritize this, because this number of homeless children is going to grow. It takes 5 years to build affordable housing. We need to address it in the shelters itself, to be able to handle it so that the teachers can come in, whether they're public school teachers, charter school teachers, and I know there are a number of parochial school teachers who love children who would volunteer their efforts to do that.
We're going to give it to Katie Honan now to ask about another aspect of affordable housing.
We're going to switch to the millions of New Yorkers who are renters, specifically those in rent-regulated apartments. There are more than 1 million New Yorkers living in these units, most of them rent-stabilized. Mr. Mamdani, you've proposed a rent freeze for these tenants. Mr. Cuomo, you don't support that, and you've proposed a new means test for having a rent-stabilized apartment. Mr. Mamdani, our question: how can you know in advance what the balance between landlord needs and tenant needs will be in future years? We've seen a lot of inflation in recent years. Haven't small landlords felt that pinch as well? And then we have other questions for the other candidates.
You know, we've seen time and again mayors use their power with the Rent Guidelines Board to hike the rent on those same more than 2 million New Yorkers. This same Rent Guidelines Board did a study that found that landlords of those units had seen their profits increase by more than 12%. Their response: hike the rent on rent-stabilized tenants who have a median household income of $60,000. I believe that tenants across our city deserve relief, and I also believe that city government can work to alleviate the pressures for landlords of those units without having to put that burden on those same tenants. It's possible to keep New Yorkers in this city and to help landlords with rising insurance costs, water bills, Con Edison, and a broken property tax system.
Thank you. Mr. Sliwa, what's your proposal for helping New Yorkers with the historically high rent burdens in either stabilized or market rate units?
Well, the first thing, we have 6,000 empty apartments in NYCHA. That is a sin. That's what the mayor can control right away. We need to move those families with children in. For those who live in rent-stabilized apartments and have their rent subsidized, Zoran Mandami, we need to make sure that the big realtors, that they have to pay a vacancy tax because they're holding off on those apartments. They're not putting them out into the marketplace because they want to flip the building. Not for the mid-sized landlords or the small landlords. They need the help. And there are a number of people in the outer boroughs. They own a home, they live on the property, they're not absentee landlords, 2, 3, 4 apartments, and they're deciding not to put them in the marketplace when somebody either leaves or dies because they have to deal with tenant-landlord court, which is an absolute nightmare for small landlords. We got to make sure it's a fair playing field so that the tenants are protected, but the landlords are protected so they're not stuck with squatters for 4, 5, or 6 years, which destroys their equity and forces them to leave.
Thank you. Mr. Cuomo, you signed a law in 2019 repealing a means test to live in a rent-stabilized apartment. What's your position now, and what changed in that?
The 2019 law was added tenant protections that had never been added before. and protections against tenant evictions. But to answer your question, you cannot, Zoran said, the tenant doesn't have to pay more rent, but we're going to cover the landlord's costs. No, you can't do both, and that's not what happened. We did freeze the rent with de Blasio. We lost units because the landlords took them off the market because you weren't covering their costs. The reason the Rent Guidelines Board went up after the freeze was because you had to make up for all the backlog of costs. And this, I'm going to freeze the rent. And people think it applies to all of them. No, just the 25% of the units that are rent stabilized. And by the way, it's all BS because the mayor doesn't have the power to do it anyway. The Rent Guidelines Board does, and he doesn't control the Rent Guidelines Board. So nothing is going to happen. It's all this. It's just more political blather.
Mr. Mamdani, you can respond.
You know, if you want a candidate for mayor who tells you everything that he cannot do, then Andrew Cuomo should be your choice. If you want a candidate for mayor who will use every tool at their disposal, including the 9 appointees at the Rent Guidelines Board, all of whom are appointed by the mayor, then I am the candidate for you.
We have to go to Errol, sir. I'm sorry, you weren't named, so I'm sorry. We're going to go to Errol, talk about development.
Errol, my name was invoked. Can I get the rebuttal? Quickly. Okay, quickly. The mayor doesn't appoint the Rent Guidelines Board. He's wrong. They are appointed to a term, and they're on holdovers. And when the term is over, you can appoint. But it takes a number of years to get control.
Okay, understood. Candidates, right now we are just blocks away from the site of the Long Island City rezoning plan, which has been under consideration for a decade at this point, and in its latest version would create 15,000 new apartments. That plan, like the recently passed City of Yes 5-borough rezoning, reflects a reality that hundreds of thousands of units, as many as 1 million new units, will be needed in New York City over the next 10 years. What is your plan to get new units built quickly? And the order of this will be Mr. Cuomo, then Mr. Sliwa, then Mr. Mamdani.
Yeah, Sliwa said before it takes 5 years to build affordable housing. No, it doesn't. No, it shouldn't. That's an incompetent government. You can actually get competent government and well-managed government. I built LaGuardia Airport, even though he doesn't like it, in 4 years, okay? So don't tell me it takes 5 years to build a housing unit. You have to redo HPD. You have to change the entire organizational structure. You have the zoning, but you have to start hundreds, if not thousands, of sites simultaneously. Private sector developers, partner with not-for-profits, partner with CDCs, use city-owned sites, use air rights, make a deal with the unions. But this has to be the #1 priority. The way I did 2nd Avenue Subway or the Mario Cuomo Bridge or the Kosciuszko Bridge, this project is thousands of housing developments being accelerated, expedited, facilitated at one time. And we need 500,000 units. That's the way you're going to make New York City affordable and still allow the talent to come here.
Okay, Mr. Sliwa.
I'm the only candidate here on the stage who is opposed to the City of Yes. Both my adversaries are for it. Make sure on Election Day when you turn over your ballot and you have the initiatives, you vote no. And you know how oftentimes I've been accused, how are you going to work with the Democratic-controlled City Council? I, Adrian Adams, and the predominant Democrats, including many of them very liberal and progressive, believe no to yes. I have a simple plan. It takes a year. We have 25 Empire State buildings that would be empty and just have office space. It'll never be used because business doesn't operate the way it used to. Retrofit them to affordable apartments. Most are in Manhattan. The infrastructure is there. You set up a partnership with developers. It'll put men and women to work, and you'll get your affordable apartments a lot quicker and not be a burden to the outer boroughs and the residential communities because you're in the back pockets, Andrew, of the developers who wine-dined and pocket-lined you.
Let let me ask you a follow-up on that, Mr. Sliwa. Do you think each elected city council member should have basically veto power over whether or not housing gets built in their district?
Absolutely. Local control. Community boards should have their say. What happened to zoning? We throw it out. Eric Adams. This city of yes is on steroids, and he went wild taking care of his developer friends as he knew he would be one and done. I told you he was corrupt. I told you there would be chaos, and I warned you in 2021. You should have elected me mayor then.
Okay. Mr. Mamdani.
We need to build more housing all across New York City. Today, New York City builds about 4 houses for 1,000 people. Jersey City's at 7. Tokyo is at about 10. We need to do this by streamlining the processes of private sector construction across the city, by ensuring we're building more around hubs of mass transit. And we also need to ensure that the public sector is building truly affordable housing. And what I mean by truly affordable is housing that is built with the median household income in mind, which is $70,000 for a family of 4. And that's why my administration will do exactly that, scaling up programs we already had in HPD, like senior affordable rental apartments, SARA, like Ella, extremely low-level affordability. These are the kinds of programs that will deliver a city that New Yorkers can actually afford.
There was reference to the 3 housing-related charter amendment questions. I know Mr. Cuomo is on the record as saying he favors them. We just heard Mr. Sliwa say that he's against them. Where do you stand on those?
I'm appreciative that those measures will be on the ballot and that New Yorkers will be able to cast their votes for them. I know that we desperately need to build more housing in this city, and I also know that the jobs we create in the building of that housing should be good jobs as well.
What a political answer. What is your opinion, Zoran?
Yes or no?
Come on.
Yes or no?
What is your opinion? Yes or no, Zoran?
Truth.
Don't be a politician here.
I got it. They're pointing out what I was about to, which is that you didn't answer the question.
No, I think on this
What's
stage
up,
you can
Noah?
see 2 people appealing for the Republican Party's votes.
Answer
Myself.
the question. Answer the
Hold on a
question.
sec. Let me turn on this
My
volume.
question to you was, do you support the 3 ballot amendment questions?
I have not yet taken a position on those ballot amendments.
Oh, what a shocker.
All right.
What a shocker.
We're gonna
Don't
move
worry,
on.
once he takes it, he'll change it anyway.
We're going to move it on. We're going to move on. The candidate.
What's going on, Mela?
Hey, I'm terrific. I hope you are as well. I wanted to
Yeah, I'm pretty
comment.
good.
Yeah, I wanted not necessarily to comment on what you're displaying as this video. I'm not politically savvy.
Oh, it is the New York City mayoral debate.
Right, right. It's very intense.
Well, yeah, Cuomo's trying to win, and he probably won't.
Yeah, that aggression. You should have voted for me. You know, that aggression is very ear catching. Does that make a difference in a debate whether or not someone aggresses themselves?
It can.
Okay.
It depends on if it's measured. I think, well, Mom Donnie, the reason this is actually important kind of nationally is Zoran Mamdani is a democratic socialist, basically a leftist. And he is leading both candidates by double digits. So this could, if he got elected and did a good job, he could actually change the Democratic Party. It's more important than people actually realized. He could, if he did a good job, he could literally move the Democratic Party left.
Yeah, I'm sensing
So
that.
it's kind of a big deal, or could be. It's a potential big deal.
Not everything is a TikTok video. You're the savior
You
of the Jewish
see,
people. You won't denounce.
Chris, he's a leftist. Could be a communist. Communists or leftists, socialists or leftists. Do your homework, son. I do politics. Apparently, you just do smears.
New Yorkers have serious grievances with Israel in the way the Israeli government under Benjamin Netanyahu has conducted the war in Gaza and expanded settlements in the West Bank. What would you say to and how would you handle New Yorkers who are in the streets, if you were mayor, protesting the actions of the Netanyahu government?
Fine, that's your right. Protest, demonstrate,
Apparently,
disagree.
we have turned
God
into
bless
a
America,
gun
God
sale
bless
here,
New
gun
York
show,
City.
a gun
And
show.
there's no doubt that there's two sides on what's going on, and the passions are very high. That doesn't justify anti-Semitic behavior in New York. It doesn't justify having a Jewish population that feels unprotected in New York.
Oh no, dude, I don't
It
care,
doesn't
Richard. Just
justify
have at it.
leaders who stoke the flames of hatred against Jewish people, which is what Zoran does, in my
I'll
opinion.
give him a chance to answer, and then we'll go to Mr. Sliwa.
You know, I've heard from Jewish New Yorkers.
Oh no, no, I don't talk
about anti-Semitism in this
politics
city.
with people who
deserve is a
don't know
leader who
politics.
takes it seriously,
I don't talk
who roots it
politics
out of these five
on
boroughs, not one
Nidish's show.
who weaponizes
This
it
is
as a
my
means by which to
motherfucking
score
show,
political
Chris.
points on a debate
If you
stage.
didn't notice, go look at the Stanley Cross channel and look at the description and tell me what it says.
Two kids in a schoolyard.
Nidish doesn't know politics, so I don't talk it with
This is
Nidish.
personal for me. I know you are under threat. The mother of my two youngest sons who are raised Jewish, Melinda Katz, is prosecuting this person who came up and tried to do you harm. But let me speak on behalf
No,
of my
I'm
two
afraid
sons.
I'm not drunk,
When
but
they've
you
heard
are
some of the
silly,
statements
Chris.
you've made,
So
like
shut your
support of
silly
global
ass up
jihad, and I hear
and
some
start
people out there
listening to
saying
what
that
I
Jews, their
actually
time is
say,
due,
because I
which means the
usually
same thing.
give
They're frightened,
context.
they're scared.
You are
They
silly.
view you
I am
as
not
the
drunk.
arsonist who fanned the flames of anti-Semitism. They cannot suddenly accept the fact that you're
Well, I
coming
just
in
ate
like
dinner,
a
Richard.
firefighter
It'll
and
be
you're
an
gonna put
hour or
out
so
these
before I
flames.
can crack one
You've
open.
got a lot of explaining to do, a lot of apologizing to do. My sons are afraid. Their family, their friends, many in the Jewish
Dude, I'm
community
just drinking
are
cheap
concerned if
shit.
you
I got
become mayor
Coors
'cause
Light,
they don't
but
think
I don't know. This
anti-Semitism rears
actual
its ugly
debate
head,
might
which it's
be
now
over
doing more
before
than
I
ever before,
even crack one
that
up.
you will have the ability to come in and put out those flames of hate.
Okay, yeah, you can.
I think there is room for disagreement on many positions and many policies.
What's
but I
up,
also want
Zhang?
to correct the
I
record.
didn't see you in the
I
chat.
have never,
Salute.
not once, spoken in support of global jihad. That is not something that I have said, and that continues to be ascribed to me. And frankly, I think much of it has to do with the fact that I am the first Muslim candidate to be on the precipice of winning this election.
Okay, Stanley.
All the
I'm
same,
sorry,
Curtis,
what?
I do still want to
This,
be the mayor that will keep your
this
sons
candidate
safe.
has been accused, just because he's Muslim, of associating himself with jihad.
Yeah, well, America's a racist country. Did you
Exactly.
expect
Like,
and
yeah, people,
did you expect better?
exactly. He's
What else were they gonna do?
he's being attacked
Oh
based
yeah.
on
Well,
stigma.
let me put it to you this way. He's double-digit lead over Cuomo in Curtis Lewa. All he has to do is not fuck up, and so far he's
Yeah, that's
actually
all he
winning.
gotta do.
That will keep every single New Yorker safe, and it is my job to not only deliver on that commitment, but also to ensure
Really,
that New Yorkers
Richard?
feel it every single day that they live in this city.
Okay, candidates, Brian's going to take us into the next section.
No, if he wins,
And the
it
next
could
section
shift the
is
Democratic
some
Party
individual
left.
political
That's
questions,
the
one for
actual
each of you.
possibility.
Let me start with you, Mr. Cuomo. Then Katie will ask a question of Mr. Sliwa and Errol to Mr. Mamdani. Mr. Cuomo, the last time most New Yorkers saw you,
Is that what you call that, Ryan?
was when you
Was your
resigned
friend
seat as
male?
governor under scandal in 2021. The most recent Quinnipiac University poll in this space shows
you
that
got some
54% of
Pacifico?
likely voters say you're unethical. Meanwhile, you also have strained relations with Governor Hochul, State Attorney General Letitia James, and others. What would you say right now to New Yorkers who have questions about your moral compass and concerns that you cannot effectively work with other elected officials?
Yeah, well, first, you somewhat misstated the facts, but I resigned because there was
disagree with you, Jen.
allegations made. I didn't want this waste
The
the time
Democratic
and
Party
distract
has
state
not shifted
government.
left.
I knew it was going to take a long time to
It could,
sort out.
but
I
again,
left,
I tend to know
which I thought was
politics, and a lot of
respectful to state
folks in
government.
this chat
We
just
sorted it out
speak in
legally.
talking points
Nothing
without
came
actually doing the
from any
homework.
of the allegations. I was dropped from the cases. You know that. We've had this discussion 4 times, but you like to talk about the past rather than yesterday. I chose Governor Kathy
Behave.
Hochul. I would have no problem working with
Well,
her.
you had to behave to get some
The
Pacifico now, didn't
legislature,
you?
I got
Didn't you,
11
Ryan?
budgets passed on time. Most in modern political history.
Is that what he
Haven't
said?
gotten one
I'll give
done
you
on
some
time
Pacifico
since
if
I
you
was
behave.
there. So don't tell me who knows how to work with the legislature. And a mayor being able to deal with that legislature is key. Because don't kid yourself, I've watched every governor and mayor since Ed Koch. There is a tension between the city and the state. The city's arguing
is
for
it?
budgets, the state is saying no, and the city has been getting screwed by the state, and
That's the
that
first
has to
I've heard of
change,
it.
and the city has to be
So
doing
he
better.
bought you a Mexican beer? I'll buy you a
New Yorkers,
Pacifico.
you've often presented
See,
yourself
I was
as
right
more of a
then.
well-known New York character than a serious policy expert. Your critics have said your candidacy is making it more likely that Zohran Mamdani can win the election. What do you say to them and to others who feel that while your name recognition has seen a boost, your candidacy is not helpful to New Yorkers, including those who share your views?
Number one, I have 13 campaign offices open. I'm throughout the outer boroughs. You see the excitement and energy of the working class people that I represent. I am the Republican populist candidate representing the working class. And I'm also, Katie, the candidate on the
populist.
independent line, first ever put together by
He'd
my
be
wife,
MAGA,
Nancy, who
but
loves
Trump
animals like
fucking
so
hates
many.
his guts.
Save the animals. No kill shelters. Animal abusers go to jail. So people know that I'm not just running to protect people, which has been my life as leader of the Guardian Angels. I'm there to protect our pets and animals. Because remember, Mahatma Gandhi said, a society that does not take care of its animals does not take care of its people. Homeless, emotionally disturbed.
You know,
veterans.
pets
I'm
can
out there
vote. Did you know
every day
that?
tending to their
In New
needs
York
with the
City?
Guardian Angels, doing things that the city and state should have been doing a long time ago, but neglected them and instead spent $7 billion on migrants that we don't even know. That is a disgrace. We should be there for our own people who are suffering and wallowing in desperation and despair.
Ryan, are you in New York City? I didn't realize that.
You have criticized the politics of the past where leaders either avoid taking a stand on a key issue or try to be all things to all people. But at times during this campaign, you've carefully avoided answering tough questions. We saw an instance just a few minutes ago when I asked about how you plan to vote on those ballot initiatives next month. We've asked whether you support a major rezoning push for part of Queens, some of which is in your district. You've been unclear about how you think the city's schools should be run, its governance structure. How is that different from politics as usual?
Oh, that's right.
When it comes to our schools, I believe that every single child deserves to have an excellent public education. And we have not seen that under the stewardship of those schools with this mayoral administration. We have not seen it because we are not fully funding those schools. We are not on track to comply with the class size mandates of those schools. We are not even on track to ensure greater literacy levels across those schools, despite the strides that have been taken with NYC REITs. When it comes to rezoning, I've been very clear that I will always celebrate the addition of additional housing units across the city. I also believe that Gantry State Park and Queensbridge Park should be one contiguous park. Those are things that one can believe at the same time. And my critiques of the politics of the past is right here on this stage. You can see in Andrew Cuomo someone who had 10 years to deliver on so much of what he's spoken about. He says that taking 5 years to build affordable housing is the sign of an incompetent government. By his own words, that means he must have led an incompetent government. That is what we are seeing because that is the record that is actually on offer.
I understand my friend doesn't really understand government. The governor doesn't build housing in New York City.
Not if it's you.
No, legally, there are jurisdictions, the governor doesn't pick up trash. He doesn't run the fire department. That's what the mayor does. The mayor builds housing. The state allocates funding for localities. And I allocated more funding for housing than any governor in the history of the state of New York. All right? I did things. You have never had a job. You've never accomplished anything. There's no reason to believe you have any merit or qualification for 8.5 million lives. You don't know how to run a government. You don't know how to handle an emergency. And you've literally never proposed a bill on anything that you're now talking about in your campaign. You had the worst attendance record in the assembly. And you gave yourselves the highest raise in the United States of America. You went from $110,000 to $140,000, and then you never showed up for work, and you missed 80% of the votes. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Wow, that is a convincing statement.
Always a pleasure to hear Andrew Cuomo create his own facts at every debate stage. We just had a former governor say in his own words that the city has been getting screwed by the state. Who was leading the state? It was you.
Governor Hochul.
You were leading the state for 10 years, screwing the city.
No.
You cut homelessness funding.
You
cut funding for the MTA.
You as a legislator.
You did all of these things.
No, Stanley, they mudslinging, baby. They mudslinging.
4 years.
Okay, guys, I didn't want to have to do this, but you understand how this works. You can't talk over each other. Nothing works if you do that. I believe we've heard your response. I wanted to give you a quick word, and then we're going to move on.
I heard the both of them again fighting like kids in the schoolyard. Zoran, your resume could fit on a cocktail napkin, and Andrew, your failures could fill a public school library in New York City.
Ooh.
Okay.
Welcome to
We're
a
gonna move now to
mudslinger.
public safety, and there was some breaking news from the New York Times that you, Mr. Mamdani, would ask Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch to stay on as police commissioner if you are indeed mayor. I wanted to confirm if that was true. And for Mr. Cuomo and Mr. Sliwa, would you ask the current police commissioner to stay on if you were elected? So, Mr. Mamdani, we'll start with you.
Yes, I can confirm that reporting. My administration will be relentless in its pursuit of safety and affordability for every New Yorker. And the delivery of that will require us to put together a team of the best and the brightest. Eric Adams stacked the upper echelons of the NYPD with corruption and incompetence. Commissioner Tisch took on a broken status quo, started to deliver accountability, rooting out corruption and reducing crime across the 5 boroughs. I've said time and again that my litmus test for that position will be excellence, and the alignment will be of that position. And I am confident that under a Mamdani administration, we would continue to deliver on that same mission and do so while creating the Department of Community Safety to ensure that mental health experts were the ones responding to the mental health crisis. Because safety and justice is at the cornerstone of our pursuit of public safety. And in doing so, we will also be able to deliver our agenda for affordability.
Thank you. And very briefly, quickly,
I have
Mr.
a
Sliwa and
statement.
Mr. Cuomo, would you ask Commissioner Tisch to stay on if you were elected mayor?
Yes, I would, for stability. But then again, I don't think she would serve with either Cuomo or Zoran because she has railed against no cash bail. Cuomo, the architect of no cash bail. Zoran, the apprentice of no cash bail. That's why criminals are running in the street.
And Mr. Cuomo, would you ask her to stay on?
I would ask her to stay on. I don't believe Zoran when he says he would ask her to stay on. The DSA's position, his position has been to defund, disband the police. She wouldn't take that. His current position, today's position was freeze the budget. That would cause a reduction in police. She has called for more police. I've called for more police. Mayor Adams has called for more police. So their philosophies are totally incongruous. DSA calls for eliminating misdemeanors. He wants to decriminalize prostitution. I don't think she would support any of that.
Well, we can't speak for her. She's not here. But I will ask the public safety question. And we'll start with you, Mr. Sliwa. the issues of crime and disorder on the streets. The NYPD says the crime is going down in all major categories, most major categories, but to New Yorkers, they're still concerned with disorder and their own unique perception of crime. Do you think addressing quality of life concerns helps prevent more serious crimes, and how would you deploy the city's police force to deal with those serious violent crimes and also quality of life offenses like disorderly conduct and retail theft? Mr. Stanley.
First off, I've been in all 350 neighborhoods. I'm the only candidate that's on the subway each and every day. I've yet to hear from one New Yorker who said they feel safer either in the subways or the streets. And Eric Adams constantly heckling at us like it's the perception. No, it's the reality of crime. We need 7,000 police officers. We are badly understaffed. We need to get police officers in the subways actually patrolling the moving cars where people are most threatened and most frightened. And we need to bring back the homeless outreach unit that was disbanded when de Blasio took $1 billion out of the budget. These were men and women police officers who already had with them medical nurses and healthcare practitioners, but it was de Blasio who abolished it, and they've been talking about bringing something back ever since, but they never do it. Because I'm out there in the subways every day and I never see it. And when I'm mayor, it gets done on day one. The homeless outreach unit is put back into the NYPD.
Thank you. Mr. Mamdani.
You know, when I hear from New Yorkers of where they feel least safe, they will often tell me the subway system. And when they explain those moments to me, what they are often explaining is a mental health crisis in our city and a crisis of homelessness that has only continued to grow. And that is why, at the heart of our public safety agenda, is a groundbreaking proposal to not only reduce crime, but address these very moments of unease for New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs by creating a Department of Community Safety that will be focused on the mental health crisis, focused on homelessness, and will ensure that police officers can focus on serious crimes. Because in 2020, the response time for those officers was less than 11 minutes. Today, it's closer to 16 minutes. And that's because every year, they are now responding to 200,000 mental health calls, when those are calls that could by and large be taken by experts trained on responding to that very crisis.
Thank you. Mr. Cuomo.
The answer is always a new government agency. It's manage the system, manage the public safety system. We know how to do this. Mayor David Dinkins did it when we had a real crime problem. Hire more police officers. Of course, you have to deal with the mentally ill. Of course, that requires mental health specialists with police, because the situation can be dangerous. But hire the 5,000 more cops, because they're all quitting, because they're getting worked too hard. You're going to have to raise the starting salary, because nobody wants to be a cop today, the way they're treated. Put 1,500 in the subways. Forget this Zoran idea of not prosecuting misdemeanors. Prosecute misdemeanors. Those are quality of life crimes. And that's very important. Yes, the subways are scary, but it's scary in their neighborhood too. Those quality of life crimes also have to be addressed.
Mr. Murray.
No matter how many times Andrew Cuomo describes it as my idea or my policy, I have never once stated that we were not going to prosecute misdemeanors. And that is what you see from the former governor, is someone who spends more time talking about the platforms of other organizations and other individuals than the one that I've actually put forward, or the one that he is supposed to be running on.
Now we'll hear from Brian for another question.
Excuse me 1 second. Can I just respond to that accusation?
Whether it's misdemeanors or felonies, no cash bail releases them back into the streets, and both of you are for no cash bail.
I want to move on. You'll get your opportunities, I think, because I want to bring up a particular crime concern, and that is violence among younger New Yorkers, specifically teenagers. My question is, what is your stance on the statewide Raise the Age law, which increased the age of adult criminal responsibility from 16 years old to 18 for most crimes? Police Commissioner Tisch says, quote, "The mentality on the street is that nothing happens to those under 18 who possess a gun." So would you support modifying raise the age in any way? And Mr. Mamdani, since you just announced that you would invite Commissioner Tisch to stay on, would you go along with her on this?
I would not support changes to the state's legislation, and I would not support them because the major issue with the implementation of that legislation has been the fact that there is hundreds of millions of dollars that was supposed to be delivered alongside that law that is still languishing in Albany. And I am excited to be the next mayor of this city to finally fight for the money that this city is owed to ensure that we deliver it to our young people across the 5 boroughs.
Mr. Cuomo.
What I was referring to before is Zoran is a member of the DSA, Democratic Socialists of America. They have a charter. He gives them 3% of his salary. He has said multiple times, I am a DSA member, I pledge allegiance. They say abolish jails, defund police, don't enforce misdemeanors. Go to my website, andrewcuomo.com. It's right on the front page. Now, is he lying to the DSA? Is he lying to New York? Is he lying to everybody? Who knows? On the raise the age, I passed the law. I support the law. We were one of only 2 states that put 16 and 17-year-olds in adult prisons. It was inhumane. It was cruel and unusual, and I'm proud of that law. It's administered by local governments. Some are doing it better than others. If Zoran thought that there was money locked up in Albany, maybe he should have gone to Albany and proposed a bill to release it.
Support keeping the law. Mr. Stanley.
Once again, the architect of Raise the Age, Governor Cuomo, the apprentice to him, Zoran. It's personal for me. My oldest son, Anthony, last October was the victim of a vicious gang assault that could have killed him. And what happened to these juveniles? Cut free, because they went to family court, not criminal court. So how can both of you look at me? I almost lost my oldest son to gang violence, and the perpetrators went to family court and got a little pat on the wrist and was sent home to do it again and again. No. We need to start charging juveniles who commit violent crime in criminal court, and I'll appoint criminal court judges who follow the law and don't just release them because of no cash bail.
A clear difference between you on that. Ms. Errol, you pick it up.
Okay, candidates, I've got individual questions for you, and we're going to try and pick up the pace a little bit here. I'd like you to really just explain kind of where you're coming from. Mr. Mamdani, you've called for reorganizing the NYPD to create this Department of Community Safety that, among other things, would handle calls involving people in mental health distress. Your opponents have disparaged this as sending social workers rather than cops into dangerous situations like domestic violence disputes. Explain really what you have in mind, and please include any evidence that this approach would work.
Absolutely. What my opponents are clinging to is the past, because that's all that they know. What I am proposing is something that will address the needs of New Yorkers in the present. We speak and hear from New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs who outline how the mental health crisis is one of the major challenges in this city. And yet what we have in our city is asking those same police officers who are being asked to respond to shootings, respond to murders, to also respond to these calls. I trust the dispatchers who would be receiving these calls to make the determination as to whether there was any indication of violence. If there is no indication of a threat of violence, then we would set the mental health experts and providers to respond to those same incidents. The reason I believe in the efficacy of this approach is because of the fact that it has been delivered elsewhere in the country. So no matter how often you hear those on this stage tell you that something cannot be done, know that there are others in this same country who have seen it, and it is time for that same policy to come to New York City.
Okay, Mr. Sliwa and Mr. Cuomo, I have a similar question for both of you. The department currently fields about 33,000 officers, down from 37,000 in 2018. Public safety budget approaching $10 billion. Mr. Sliwa, you want to hire 7,000 more cops. Mr. Cuomo says 5,000 more cops. Each of you make the case for why you think that's necessary, especially given the fact that for much of New York City, crime declines over the last 20 years happened while the size of the force was also declining and not rising.
Errol, I have to revisit the last debate for a second when Zoran was basing this policy on what they do in Eugene, Oregon. You've never been to Eugene, Oregon. I have. Are you out of your mind? And then Columbus, Ohio. This is New York City, a major metropolitan area with thousands of 911 calls, domestic abuse, emotionally disturbed persons, and you want to have social workers go out there and risk their life, and by the way, they're not going to get the results that a trained professional police officer can get. That's why we so desperately need 7,000 new cops. We'll use the Boston model, which is pay now in lieu of taxes. They do it at Harvard University and the other university. We'll raise $1 billion, get them vetted, trained, and out into the streets so they can be seen in all the neighborhoods, and most importantly, do the job they were sworn to do. And I will make sure that their insurance, the qualified immunity that was stripped from them, the only civil servants who are not protected by the taxpayer, is returned so that they can freely go out and do what they were trained to do, is to protect all of the people of New York City.
Okay, Mr. Cuomo.
There is nothing new here. We've had mentally ill, homeless people going back to the Billy Boggs case, right, under the Ed Koch administration. I ran homeless services not just for David Dinkins, but also for President Clinton. I've worked in every state, all the large cities, on all homeless programs. I've spent dozens of nights out trying to bring mentally ill people in. It can be done with mental health workers and police workers. You cannot tell from a phone call if a person is going to be dangerous. And I have seen personally many times a person who seemed very calm and sedate explode into rage. Why? Because that's sometimes a symptom of mental illness. So there's nothing new here. It just has to be done and managed. Yes, you need more police. You need more police, first of all, Errol, because they're quitting, because there are not enough to staff the force, and they're working overtime and weekends, and their family life is destroyed. So you have the highest attrition rate in modern history. You have to hire 5,000 just to slow down the attrition.
Okay, thank you, candidate.
40,000 beds for mental health in the state hospital system. By the time you fled fearing impeachment, you cut the budget down to 4,000 beds. Shame on you for putting those emotionally disturbed persons in the street.
You don't know what you're doing. Well, there's one bet I'm going to say for you, but no one is saying to go back to Willowbrook. That's when there were 40,000 people in mental institutions. Yeah. We left that 40 years ago when we went to community-based housing.
We're going to stay in this century, guys. Yeah. The next, we're going to do our lightning round where each candidate will answer our questions with a brief response, usually yes or no. I'm going to do the first couple. Candidates, if you had the power, would you keep, kill, or modify the congestion pricing program? Just say one of those words. Keep, kill, or modify. Mr.
One
Sliwa.
and done. Dead.
Mr. Mamdani.
Keep.
Keep. Okay. Would you expand, decrease, or keep the same number of so-called safe injection sites for drug users in the city? Mr. Mamdani.
Can you say the options again?
Expand, decrease, or keep the same?
Keep the same.
Mr. Cuomo.
Keep.
Close them down.
Okay. The last two mayors proposed allocating 1% of the city budget for parks. Will you make the same pledge here tonight, Mr. Sliwa?
Add another 2%. Keep your hands off the parks, you greedy developers.
1%.
Mr. Cuomo. 1%. Okay.
2%.
Okay.
Another lightning round question. The city recently enacted a 15-mile-per-hour speed limit for e-bikes. And of course, there are the other motorized two-wheelers that also frequently ignore red lights and other traffic laws. If you were mayor, would you direct the NYPD to ramp up speeding tickets and other moving violations on the motorized two-wheelers, Mr. Cuomo?
Yes. Look, this is a dangerous situation for many people.
Mr. Mamdani, yes or no?
I would actually build on the city council's progress in holding the apps accountable like DoorDash and Grubhub to ensure that there weren't incentives for breaking those street traffic laws.
So you would not increase ticketing the riders?
I do not think the police should be the ones dealing with the failures of these app companies.
Mr. Sleeper.
License them, register them, and yes, do enforcement on them.
All right. There is a ballot question to align mayoral election years with presidential election years in the future. Do you support this, Mr. Sliwa?
Absolutely not. All the attention would go to the presidential election, not to the mayoral election and all the down-ballot elections, all of our city council people.
That's a no, Mr. Mamdani.
I haven't yet taken a position on any of the ballot referendums.
Oh, shocker.
Again?
Same answers
Again and again and again. Yes.
Thank you so much. First question, do you support having a casino in the 5 boroughs, like it's a full casino, and do you have a favorite among the 3 current contenders? Mr. Sliwa.
No, only if the community wants it.
Mr. Mamdani.
I'm personally skeptical of casinos, but voters did choose to bring them to New York City. And unlike Andrew Cuomo and Donald Trump, I don't view the law as just a suggestion.
Do you have a favorite of the 3?
No, I don't have favorites of casinos.
Mr. Cuomo.
I do not. I have not reviewed the proposals. I was not in. I did not vote.
It's not so hard to say.
I did. Let me just so you understand some facts. I did not vote to bring the casinos to New York City. I did casinos in upstate New York as economic development measures. I had no part of these 3 casinos, how they were done. I think it's highly problematic, and I think there's going to be a lot more to come.
If this was, if this was a ranked choice,
You and Zoran can't answer a straight question.
If there was a ranked choice election, how would you vote, Mr. Mamdani?
If there was a ranked choice election?
In this, you'd have to rank these.
Myself number 1 and Curtis number 2.
Mr. Sliwa.
Oh, please don't be glazing me here, Zoran. Are you kidding?
Mr. Sliwa, do you have
I support ranked choice voting, but I'd only vote for myself.
Mr. Cuomo?
I love that Zoran and Curtis ticket idea. I don't know. I'm just enamored with it. I would just rank myself.
Would any of you accept Mayor Adams' endorsement? Mr. Mamdani?
No.
Mr. Cuomo?
Yes, I would.
Mr. Sliwa?
Absolutely not. Put that crook in jail where he belongs.
And final, a fun one.
Be careful. Be careful.
What is your favorite live music venue in New York City, Mr. Sliwa?
Oh, chain smokers. EDM.
Under the K Bridge, I presume.
That's right, the Kosciuszko Bridge.
Mr. Mamdani?
Forest Hill Stadium.
Mr. Cuomo?
Under the Kosciuszko Bridge.
Have you seen a show under the K Bridge? Who'd you see?
No, I picked up my daughters at a show there. That's as close as I got.
Candidates, it's time for the cross-examination round. That's where each candidate gets a chance to ask one question of one rival. The order was selected at random. We're going to begin with Curtis Sliwa.
Zoran, you talk about free, free, free. But we know that somebody's got to pay for it, and that's you, the taxpayers. And that's going to lead to bankruptcy. The only reason that Zoran is on the stage is because of the failed Governor Cuomo, who was rejected by the Democrats in the primary and rejected by 13 women who charged you with sexual harassment. Do you ever know that no means no? You know what no means?
Your question is to Mr. Mamdani? Who was your question
well, we can bifurcate it, right?
No. You can't. Who was your question
to? It's to Cuomo.
Okay. Your response, Mr. Cuomo.
I'm not sure what the man said, but the situation, my legal situation, as we discussed before, was fully litigated. I was dropped from the cases. If anyone has a legal situation to talk about, I think it's Mr. Sliwa, who runs the Guardian Angels, and apparently as a charitable donation, but never filed any tax returns for the Guardian Angels, and has been accepting charitable donations, which is just a crime and tax fraud. So I think that's the person who I was explaining to do.
Okay. Your turn to ask a question, Mr. Cuomo.
To Zoran, I believe, as we've stated, that you have been a divisive force in New York, and I believe that's toxic energy for New York. It's with the Jewish community, it's with the Italian-American community when you give the Columbus statue the finger. It's with the Sunni Muslims when you say decriminalize prostitution, which is haram. It's the Hindus. But then you take a picture with Rebecca Kadaga, Deputy Prime Minister of Uganda. You take a picture with your father, you're smiling, he's smiling. She's known as Rebecca Gay Killer Kadaga. You're a citizen of Uganda. You took the picture, you said you didn't know who she was, it turns out you did. How do you not renounce your citizenship or demand BDS against Uganda
Renounce
for
citizenship? What the
imprisoning
fuck is he
people
talking
who
about?
are gay just by their sexual orientation? Isn't that a basic violation of human rights?
I think he gets the question.
My politics is consistent, and my politics is built on a belief in human rights for all people. And that extends to queer and trans New Yorkers, and it extends to queer and trans Ugandans. And had I known that the first deputy minister was the architect of that legislation, I would not have taken that photo. And yet I also know that this constant attempt to smear and slander me is an attempt to also distract from the fact that, unlike myself, you do not actually have a platform or a set of policies to protect those same New Yorkers here. All you have are the insults that you have lobbed at every single opportunity you have.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's it. Cross-examination is just a question and answer. Your turn to ask a question.
Mr. Cuomo, in 2021, 13 different women who worked in your administration credibly accused you of sexual harassment.
Uh-oh.
Since then, you have spent more than $20 million in taxpayer funds to defend yourself, all while describing these allegations as entirely political. You have even gone so far as to legally go after these women. One of those women, Charlotte Bennett, is here in the audience this evening. You sought to access her private gynecological records. She cannot speak up for herself because you lodged a defamation case against her. I, however, can speak. What do you say to the 13 women that you sexually harassed?
If you want to be in government, then you have to be serious and mature. There were allegations of sexual harassment. They were then went to 5 district attorneys, fully litigated for 4 years. The cases were dropped, right? You know that as a fact. So everything you just said was a misstatement, which we're accustomed to from you.
Everything that I stated was a misstatement?
Yes, because the cases were dropped. That's what happened. And my question to you, you still didn't answer, why won't you say BDS against Uganda for saying gays should be imprisoned for being gay? Okay. You have no problem with BDS against Israel, but no BDS for Uganda.
This is just one question, one answer. We all heard it. Thank you very much, candidates. Brian.
Our next topic is education. The next mayor will oversee the largest school system in the United States, as you know, with roughly 900,000 students, thousands of schools, and billions of dollars in budget. We have an education question for each of you. Mr. Mamdani, you said you would give up mayoral control of schools and share decision-making with various stakeholders. But in the last debate, you said you're still for mayoral accountability for educational outcomes. This has confused some people about how you can give up final authority but still hold yourself accountable. Can you try to clarify that?
I remain opposed to mayoral control, and I also believe that the mayor is accountable for that which happens in this city. I will not shirk that accountability, even when we are putting together a system that has greater involvement for parents, for educators, for students. Look, 1 in 300 Americans is a student in the New York City public school system. This is a system where we are failing to deliver excellence to students, to teachers, to parents, and it is time to have a mayor who understands not only the crisis in front of us, but the fact that we have to change our ways if we want to change our results. And that is what we are running on, a plan for the future, not to simply relitigate the past.
Mr. Sliwa, you recently proposed reducing the education budget by $10 billion, or about 25%, to help pay for tax cuts. But your website includes things like, quote, hire more therapists, expand services for students with learning differences, build new vocational high schools, restore arts programs, expand athletic programs, and increase teacher pay to attract and retain top talent. Those are all exact quotes from your website. How do you defund the education department by 25% to cut taxes, add in the Trump administration's various cuts, and do all those expansions at the same time?
Well, let me tell you, you have a bureaucracy at the Tweed Courthouse. Perfect place to house the Department of Education because of the corruption in the top ranks. You have 13 deputy chancellors. You have about 50 department heads. Nobody at the school level ever deals with them. $41,000 we pay per student, and teachers still have to reach into their pockets to pay for basic supplies. You cut at the top, contracts that have been negotiated, that have not been overseen, you will save millions and millions of dollars. And yes, you open up the schools as it was when I went to public school, after school center, night center, weekend center, not just sports, but culture, plays, musicals. People used to be able to take instruments home when they were in band and orchestra. That attracted children. 1/3 of our children don't even come to school each day. And we need more vocational training like we had when I was growing up. That's been depleted. And more charter schools. We need to raise the cap and have more charter schools for the children who have been waiting to get in for years.
And Katie has an education question from Mr. Cuomo.
Thanks, Brian. Mr. Cuomo, there's currently a state law to reduce class sizes in the city. You recently described the law as, quote, reckless, and proposed that popular schools be exempted from this law. You also want to start closing low-performing schools, one of the most controversial policies of Mayor Bloomberg. Would you defy the class size law, and if you close existing schools rather than work to improve them, what specifically helps the kids learn more and where?
Yeah, the common denominator on all these things is, the question is, what is your plan to change things, and what is your ability and experience to do it? These are management challenges, and I have managed large bureaucracies. The Department of Education, we lost 1 million students. What's happening is young families have to make a decision when their child has to go to school. They're deciding to go to the suburbs, go to Jersey. They're not going to sacrifice their kid. So it is a terrible problem for the entire city, the shrinking public school system. I would double the gifted and talented programs, double the number of specialized high schools, keep the SAT, and keep mayoral control. It is wholly inconsistent to say, I think it's a top priority, but I want to give up mayoral control, but I want to be a mayor who runs grocery stores. Forget the grocery stores. Run the Department of Education. It was the most single instrumental reform. Mayor Bloomberg was right. The mayor in Boston and Chicago, don't give up mayoral control.
Would you defy the law, the class size law?
The problem with the class size law is a nice idea. The state didn't send the money. The state has not been doing its fair share for the city. If you have a nice idea, that's nice. Send the money.
And just a fact check, I don't think we lost 1 million students. We have just about under 1 million students in the DOE system, but just a quick show of hands.
I'm sorry, yes.
And just a show of hands, no talking, who is in favor of the cell phone ban in schools? Raise your hands. Everyone has raised their hands. They all are in favor of the cell phone ban. Thank you.
Okay. Candidates, I want to talk about Rikers Island. Under city law, the jail complex on Rikers is supposed to close in 2027. That's something that the next mayor is going to have to navigate. The population, however, has only gone up. It's surpassing 7,000 detainees, and a judge this year put Rikers on a path toward federal receivership. So here's the question. As mayor, will you commit to the closure of Rikers Island as required? And if not, what is your alternative plan? We'll start with you, Mr. Sliwa.
Number one, the architect for the closing of Rikers Island is on this stage. That's former Governor Andrew Cuomo. He was the first, and his apprentice is Orhan Mandami. No, you keep Rikers Island open. There are 7 functioning buildings, 3 others that need to be rehabbed. You can move those who have mental health issues and give them the treatment they need as long as they're detained on Rikers Island. Some people do a year of time if they're given that in the courts rather than be shipped upstate. So there are a variety of inmates. We have allocated $8 billion for 4 community jails. The price tag is now up to $16 billion and will only house 4,000 of the 7,000. Guess what? We keep the inmates on Rikers Island and we turn those 4 units in the neighborhoods into affordable housing that we've all been clamoring for.
What about the law that requires the closing?
Oh, you go into court, you fight. You fight for the taxpayers and you fight to keep inmates on Rikers Island so that we don't just have to lock up toothpaste in New York City, but we lock up inmates.
Mr. Cuomo.
The Zoran has said he'd honor the law closing Rikers in 2027. You can't. You can't. Unless you intend to release all the people on Rikers Island, which is the Democratic Socialist policy. The county jails are not going to be built. It was a mistake. The whole plan was a mistake. They are years late, billions over budget. I would say scrap the county jails, build new jails on Rikers Island, provide ferry and bus transportation for people from the other boroughs to visit on Rikers Island, and then use the existing 4 sites for commercial residential. But you cannot close Rikers on 2027 because there's no place to put the people unless you're going to release 7,000 people.
Well, you're familiar with the idea that a law is passed, it's supposed to be followed, even if it's difficult, even if the timeline is screwed up, even if the money's not there.
Yeah, so then, which is Zoran's position, then you're saying release the 7,000 people. And I'm saying I'm not going to release 7,000 criminals into New York City.
Mr. Mondano.
There is no one on this stage that is saying that. Yet Andrew Cuomo will repeat it again and again. What I have said time and again, I'll repeat it again, is that yes, we have to close Rikers Island. Rikers Island is a stain on the history of this city. And that this current administration has made it nearly impossible to do so by the stipulated timeline. So what I will do is everything in my power to try and meet that deadline, knowing that Eric Adams has made it so difficult because he's had no interest in actually following through on it. And as much as you will hear about experience and running a government, what Andrew Cuomo doesn't seem to understand is the city has already entered into contracts for these borough-based jails, and to end those contracts would be to incur massive fiscal penalties, but that's not something that he seems to care about, even as he speaks about the fiscal stewardship of this city.
If I may, you want to talk to me about running government or managing projects? I built the 2nd Avenue subway. I built the Mario Cuomo Bridge, the largest infrastructure project in the United States of America, $5 billion, on time, on budget. 2nd Avenue subway, Moynihan train hall. Of course there's costs incurred. The question is going to be, how much more does it cost to finish the jail, and are you better off cutting your losses? That's the question in the discussion, and you sit down with the contractor and you negotiate. Yeah. But your position of, I'm going to close it on 2027, the question is yes or no? Do you close it in 2027? You still haven't answered.
You will hear from Andrew Cuomo about his experience as if the issue is that we don't know about it. The issue is that we have all experienced your experience. The issue is that we experienced you taking a $5 million book deal while you sent seniors to their deaths in nursing homes. The issue is that we experienced you cutting funding for the MTA to send money to upstate ski resorts. The issue is that we saw you give $959 million in tax breaks to Elon Musk. The issue is your experience.
No, the only thing, the issue is you have no experience. You've accomplished nothing. You haven't proposed a bill on anything. And you still haven't said if you'll close Rikers in 2027.
Stop. I got the answer to the questions I was asking. Thanks very much. Let's move on.
My next question is about another law that's already on the books. The city has a climate law, Local Law 97, that will require a large percentage of the buildings in the city to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by 2030 or face financial penalties. As you know, some co-ops, condos, and landlords are afraid of crushing expenses, but buildings account for 70% of the city's climate pollution emissions, so reduction would need to include that sector. You all have taken different positions on this. I want our viewers and listeners to hear each of you, starting with Mr. Cuomo in this case. Would you abide by and make others abide by Local Law 97 as it stands?
As it stands, you're going to have to be flexible in the application. What's going to happen now is many companies will just pay the fine because it's cheaper than actually following the rules. And that's the last thing you want. That accomplishes nothing, right? It's just another tax, in essence, on these units. So there's going to have to be flexibility. It's the right intent, it's the right goal, but how you implement it has to deal with reality and the costs. Again, otherwise, I can tell you, I've had this conversation with many of them. They're not even going to try. They're just going to pay the fine.
What kind of flexibility, if you could be
It's going to be
specific?
timing, and what do we mean, and can it be phased in?
Mr. Mamdani.
The climate crisis is one of the most pressing crises facing this city, and we deserve to take it on with the urgency it requires. It is right now easier to pay the fine than to actually comply with this legislation. We have to ensure that we make it easier for condo and co-op owners to follow these laws, and we do that by eliminating the application fees for J51, by extending that tax credit, by also creating a one-stop shop in New York City government that procures at a large scale heat pumps and the very kind of infrastructure needed to comply. We've seen this happen before with clean energy work that's been done in Woodside houses. It's time to bring that kind of work right here so that we can ensure full compliance with Local Law 97.
I read that you're proposing the city buy those heat pumps and other tech in bulk and give them to landlords and other buildings for free. Is that accurate?
No, it's to actually ensure that they can afford the cost of these things by purchasing using an economy of scale.
Thank you. Mr. Sliwa.
I'm the only one on this stage totally opposed to Local 97. 100,000 condo and co-op owners. Their maintenance fees will go up 30%. They won't have enough reserve fees. You're going to see massive flight from the co-ops and condos. Now, they want to electrify everything. Well, there's a man on the stage who took Indian Point offline. That was 25% of our electrical output. We haven't been able to meet the need since. And as a result, they're now starting to build, because of the city of yes that I'm opposed, these lithium-ion battery warehouses. Where? Staten Island 38, Brooklyn 12. 8 in Queens, 4 in the Bronx, and none in Manhattan? Oh, no. They're going to electrify, and they don't have the electrical output. So I say no to Local 97. And when I'm mayor, I tell all my commissioners, throw a monkey wrench into the process. We slow it down because we want these condo owners and co-op owners to stay.
Mr. Cuomo, you were name checked on Indian Point?
I think I was. Indian Point was a danger. It was the nuclear power plant most closely located to the densest population. There was no nuclear plant on the globe that close to a city. There were 20 million people in what was called the kill zone. Before I became Attorney General, there had been a number of lawsuits to stop it. What we did is we brought cables down from upstate New York down the Hudson River. We have nuclear upstate. We're in rural areas to bring that nuclear power down the cables, and then on that basis substitute for Indian Point's power.
Yes or no?
Electricity rates are too high to pay because of you, Andrew Cuomo.
Yes or no?
like you
Would
know
any
what
of
you're
you
talking
support new nuclear power plants to help bring down the rising cost of utilities in New York State? Just yes or no, Mr. Sliwa?
Upstate, they're already starting, yes.
Mr. Mondani?
I think it's something worth exploring.
Mr. Cuomo?
Is that a yes?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Katie.
We're going to move on now to the economy. Donnie, you're proposing to raise the city's minimum wage to $30 an hour by 2030. How would you get the state legislature to go along with your plan? And do you think it's realistic to feel that a small business owner would have to pay every employee this amount, especially when the city currently doesn't mandate that figure for its own public employees? And I have separate questions for Mr. Sliwa and Mr. Cuomo.
So this would be something where the city would have to start doing so as well, because any law that we want New Yorkers to follow, the city should be following it itself. And the reason that we put forward $30 by 2030 is that that's the minimum that a New Yorker needs to be paid to be able to afford to live in this city. And what we are looking at right now is the possibility of the place that we know and love becoming a museum of where working class people used to be able to live. Our proposal that we've put forward would be phased in over a longer period of time for small business owners to ensure that they could deal with this. And it's also one that we are confident we would be able to accomplish because of the fact that we are seeing from New Yorkers time and time again, the absence of it is pushing them to live in Jersey City, to live in Pennsylvania, to live in Connecticut, because they can't afford to live in New York City.
Thank you. And for Mr. Sliwa and Mr. Cuomo, if you're not in favor of a $30 minimum wage, what are your plans to raise the salaries of workers in New York City? We'll start with you, Mr. Sliwa.
First off, Zoran Mandami deals with fantasy, not reality. Look at all the Uber drivers. Look at all the taxi drivers, the Lyft drivers. They will now have driverless cars. That's what they're pushing. AI that's going to be wiping out so many jobs, especially for young men and women who went to school, got their 4 years of college, 2-year degree, and they're making $155,000, and then they get wiped out. You know what the corporate sector is going to do. They're going to bring in robotics. Zoran, stop dealing with fantasy and start dealing with reality. You're pushing businesses out because you want to tax them. I'm the only one here who wants to cut the corporate taxes, the income tax, the property tax we can cut in order to keep business here. But if you raise the minimum wage too high, they're going to end up going in a different direction, and they're not going to hire workers. It's going to be robots and driverless cars and AI, and I'm opposed to that.
Thank you, Mr. Cuomo.
Yeah, I half agree with Curtis. There is, Zoran does have socialist theory colliding with practical reality. I went through this. We raised the minimum wage to the highest in the United States of America. New York set the bar. We set it at $15. Every other state said, that's crazy when we did it. People in the state said that was crazy when we did it. But it was calibrated. It was doable. We phased it in different parts of the state. We phased it in with small businesses. We gave them assistance. Because if you raise it too high, and I believe 30 is too high, I would raise it to 20. If you raise it to too high, you do two things. People lose their jobs. You bankrupt businesses. You're talking about basically doubling payroll. And you can have a negative effect where literally businesses close and people lose their jobs. And overall, again, it's another tax on corporations, another reason to leave New York, another reason to pack up the family and get on I-95 and go to South Carolina and Florida and Texas.
All right. Candidates, we are coming down the home stretch. I want to alert our media partners, especially we're going to go over by 5 minutes, and we're going to have Brian lead a conversation about transit.
Right, and we're going to have to do this very briefly to each of you because you each have transit things to answer to. Mr. Cuomo, you say the city should take partial control of New York City transit away from the MTA, which is mostly controlled by the state. Would the city then have to foot more of the bill? And if this is a good idea, why didn't you propose it as governor?
The capital thing is, first of all, New York City owns the New York City Transit Authority, not the MTA. It leases the trains and subways to the MTA. And then the question is the division of responsibility. New York City does the safety along with the MTA. The problem the MTA is having is the capital construction projects. It has been an ongoing problem. I came in, I took over Moynihan and finished it. I came in and took over 2nd Avenue subway, the L train tunnel. The capital construction projects are way overdue.
Would it fall more on the city to pay?
I would say no. There is a budget set. My only point is the MTA, which is a labyrinth bureaucracy set up by Rockefeller, which should have never been done in the first place. It's an overwhelming task for the greatest managers, and I hired both of them. But let the city manage the capital construction from the MTA budget.
Mr. Mamdani, make your case briefly for your proposal for free buses for everybody, even those who can afford to pay.
You know, first I'll just say that one of the most celebrated leaders of the New York City Transit was Andy Byford, who had such a terrible experience working under Andrew Cuomo that he would rather work under Donald Trump right now. The proposal that we have put forward addresses the fact that today, in the wealthiest city, in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, 1 in 5 New Yorkers cannot afford the bus fare. It would cost $700 million a year to make the slowest buses in the country fast and free. And by doing so, we would generate more than double in economic revenue for New Yorkers across the city. It would be something that would reduce assaults on bus drivers, it would increase ridership on those buses, and it would actually have environmental impacts, as fewer New Yorkers would drive their own car or take a taxi and would instead get on the bus. And I know all of this because I delivered it as a state assembly member who won the first free buses in New York City's history.
And Mr. Sliwa, your website, according to my reading, has a section on transit safety, but nothing on transit service. Do you have any core proposals for improving it?
Oh, sure. First off, Zoran, I get a good belly laugh.
Zoran, bro.
Oh, all right. I'll keep practicing.
I got you.
I get a good belly laugh every time I hear you say free fare in the subways. Half the people don't pay anyway. How about fair enforcement? I'm the only one who says we have all kinds of fare programs for the indigent and the poor. But if you don't pay your fare, there needs to be enforcement. And by the way, I've taken the subway almost every day of my life since I was 5. The worst time was the summer of 2017, the summer of hell, Andrew Cuomo,
right,
when
Curtis.
you were running the subway system as the head of the MTA. I don't trust you with anything to do with mass transit.
How would you make it better?
Oh, very simply. Everybody pays their fare, enforcement, more cops in the subway system. And by the way, we can get more people to voluntarily actually sponsor their subway system stations, clean it up and beautify them and add some life so the community has input into the subway that they have to go through the sleaze and slime all the time.
All right, candidates, we've got just a couple of minutes. Let's have another quick lightning round where each candidate will answer my questions with a quick response, usually yes or no. Name one person you'd like to see run for president in 2028, Mr. Sliwa.
Wow, in 2028. Man, I'm dealing right now with 2025.
Mr. Mamdani.
My only focus is on November.
Mr. Cuomo.
I haven't thought it through.
Okay. We have a city of hundreds of languages and cultures. Can you greet New Yorkers in a language other than your own? Mr. Cuomo.
Ciao. Buenos dias.
Ni hao, the pangyo.
Okay.
Buona fortuna per 100 anni.
Okay. Have you decided on a school's chancellor, Mr. Sliwa?
Yes, I would ask Bob Holden, who's taught 40 years. He leads Democrats for Sliwa.
Okay. Mr. Mamdani.
No, I haven't decided on a chancellor as yet.
No.
Okay. Should people be arrested for the solicitation of sex, Mr. Sliwa?
No. The Johns, yes. The pimps, the madams, and the absentee landlords.
Okay. Mr. Mamdani.
No.
Mr. Cuomo.
Zoran's decriminalization for prostitutes, Johns, and pimps would be a disaster on the quality of life in New York City.
They should be arrested, you say? Should people be arrested for soliciting sex?
It is a criminal offense. I would keep it as it is.
Okay. Last question. Can you name one thing that New York got right during the COVID crisis? Mr. Sliwa.
New York got right. Oh, wow. He didn't get anything right during the COVID crisis. No.
Mr. Mamdani.
It only took me 15 minutes to get my vaccine shot when I went for that, and that was an efficient experience.
Mr. Cuomo.
Thank you for the compliment.
That was a city-run vaccine.
All right,
No,
gentlemen.
it wasn't.
Thanks so much, gentlemen. That is going to do it for this debate. I would like to thank the candidates and our partners and all of you at home. If you missed any part of this debate, you can watch it in its entirety at ny1.com and the Spectrum News YouTube channel. Early voting is set to begin across the 5 boroughs on Saturday, with several other races on the ballot as well, including...
All right, folks. Well, that concludes tonight's festivities. I should be back tomorrow around 8 o'clock or later. We'll see. Please make sure you hit the like button on the way out. And if you happen to be new, please subscribe to the channel. We could use your support, and make sure you all support the show by supporting the host. It would be nice. So you all, Anton, you missed the festivities. But I will see everyone in the morning. I had a good time. I thought this was actually a pretty lively debate, livelier than usual debates. So livelier than the last one for sure. So I will see you all tomorrow.